Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. Another extra amazing day because we've got a raid that occurred this morning. 2 locations, personal residence and office. We'll go through it. Of course, this dude's name is John Bolton, and we've talked a lot about him. This is what it looked like outside his house this morning. And he got raided. We know who he is. He's the walrus dude, but has been a big advocate of making sure that there are no classified documents anywhere, and has multiple comments about this when he was on with MSNBC screeching about Trump and Mar-a-Lago and all the things, except in that case, Trump was the president, if you remember, and he has a lot more powers than the National Security Advisor did. And so Bolton got busted. We'll talk about it. We'll go through reaction. I got some video, some updates. CNN was outside the house reporting on it. And Tim Burchett and Roger Stone are asking a very good question. How does it feel to have your home raided at 6 o'clock in the morning? You're going to jail. All right, so that's kind of where I was going with this. Sounds pretty good. Trump talked about it this morning, and we got just a lot here. So it's a lot of fun stuff. We also got a Lisa Cook update, the Federal Reserve person who is also a mortgage fraudster. We'll go through that. And we got Cash and we got Byron Donalds all in just the first segment. Oh my goodness, it's going to be a doozy. Then we'll turn our attention to another big one that came out from our friends over at Just the News. This document here that we'll go through today is about Tropic Vortex. And we heard Peter Navarro mention some of this yesterday. And now the documents reveal that Comey was involved explicitly, essentially, in ordering the leaks to the media. And our friend Hans Monkey put together a little 7-point spreadsheet for us here. Nice little list that we'll read to show just how complicit. Remember that guy John Durham was? Remember when some of us were like, yeah, John Durham's going to do a great job for us. I think I was one of those people. Oh, maybe not. I don't know. But anyways, John Durham is terrible. Okay. He was complicit in this whole thing and covered the whole thing up. Now James Comey is in big trouble. So hopefully he's getting raided next. But Tulsi was out talking about it, saying we are reforming the deep state. We saw some major cuts from her. So we'll see what she says about it. And then we've got a Supreme Court update. That is a good one because Justice Gorsuch in here is not happy about what's happening with these lower level judges. And we'll go through it. We got Ketanji, who's also being extra Ketanji as usual. And this is a strange decision because it's 5-4. And we're asking ourselves, who joined the libs? Who could be one of the 4? That's weird because it's a 6-3 court. Well, you know who it is. It's John Roberts. Of course it is. So we'll go through that. We got a bunch of stuff to get to. It's going to be a beautiful stream. Happy Raid Friday. It's extra enjoyable when it's a Raidy Friday. All right. And so, my friends, we had a great members only after party yesterday. We're going to have a members only after party today. And tomorrow we'll have a members only Saturday stream. So thanks for becoming a member. Thanks for supporting our work. Thanks for joining our community. Getting to know people at a little, more intimate level in our members only community. Come check it out. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com or join up on YouTube. Click the join button and we'll see you today in the after party. And as a housekeeping item, obviously we're here early today. We are waiting for some announcement from the president on something. And we don't really know what he's going to be talking about. And in fact, there was nothing even live at the moment on it. And we're prepped up for this thing. He's got this Oval Office announcement. C-SPAN, this is live, but the program has ended. This is their live ended program. We've got Fox News Live. Let's see what they're reporting here. They're outside Detroit. And then we got all of the main cables that we can see in this screen, which you don't really have anything from Trump. So we don't really know what's going on. It's supposed to be about 12 noon right now. And it is 12 noon about right now, Eastern. And we have no El Presidente, which is curious. So we'll keep our eye on it and keep these screens ready to go. We're also looking at the presidential schedule today. Let's do a refresh over here and see what we've got cooking on this panel. Boom. So here's the latest. Trump is going over to stop at the People's House to speak with visitors and tourists. We saw that this morning. I've got some clips of that. And then he's making an announcement like right now. All right, so we'll keep our eye on it. And when it appears, we will cover it. So let me just make sure we got something here popped out so that I can keep an eye on it on our screen, on our end. All right, so now let's get into business on the day, because John Bolton is in big trouble. And what did I do with that clip? All right, sorry for all the clicking around. Did I just move that one? There it is. Here's John Bolton. And so let's talk about this dude right here. John Bolton busted, his house raided by the FBI. You remember this guy used to work with the Trump administration. Trump's going to explain why he brought him on in just a second. But now he has a long history in the government. He's been around with Reagan and Bush and everybody. And so they just kind of shoved him in there and Trump won. But he's essentially a warmonger, the guy who's very important in getting the United States invested in Iraq and Afghanistan and all the things. And now he's in big trouble. And we got this clip, we'll come back to it, where he is screaming about Mar-a-Lago and Trump's classified documents being stolen and how he doesn't understand how the classified document system works. And okay, we're all going to die. Remember that? We had that from like Jake Tapper and all of the MSNBC dorks over there for a long time. Now he got raided. This is what it looked like outside the scene of his house over from the AP reporting this morning. So they're there. They got a couple locations there, and CNN was also outside. So we'll come back to that. But here's what they reported. FBI on Friday searched the Maryland home and Washington office of John Bolton, former national security advisor, pretty high position. Says Bolton emerged as a critic of Trump. He was not in custody on Friday and has not been charged with any crimes, not yet. Now, the search is seemingly the most significant public step the DOJ has taken against a perceived enemy. Give me a break, okay? He's a criminal. Stop this crap, AP. No one's above the law. Did he have classified documents or not? Was he allowed to have them or not? Of course, they're going to screech about it. But, wow, this is a terrible article. So Bolton was in his office building at the time. Bolton was not home for the search, but after it started, he was spotted on Friday morning standing in the lobby of the Washington building, where he keeps an office and talking to two people with the FBI visible on their vests. He left a few minutes later and appeared to have gone up the stairs. Agents were seen taking bags into the office and the building through the back entrance. Messages left with the spokesperson for Bolton were not immediately returned, clearly. White House referred the questions over to the FBI, and Kash Patel came out and he said, guess what, everybody? No one is above the law, ... Probably, there's probably like a, unless you're foreign intelligence or something. But anyways, we don't, I don't know what the next ... would be. But anyways, no one is above the law, not even John Bolton. FBI agents on a mission. And then there you go, right there. All right, so here's what we see from this CNN reporter who's outside the scene. John Bolton getting raided.
FBI agents come out, go into a couple of these vehicles and retrieve boxes, which they then took back into the home. Now, over the last few hours, again, they've been here for about 3 hours now, Wolf, and we've seen them come out of these vehicles, take in boxes, what appear to be document boxes, go back into the house. We haven't seen them bring anything out of it, and so again, we don't know very much more about what this investigation is about, except that we know it is related to an investigation into the possible retention of national security information. You remember, of course, that President Trump accused John Bolton of holding on to classified information, that he revealed classified information in a 2020 book that he published on his time serving during the first term of Donald Trump. He was fired in 2019. And so we don't know whether this is related to that investigation, which was closed in the early months of the Biden administration. We don't know if it's related to that or if there is some new information that came into the FBI that has caused this latest search. Now, as you mentioned, this is one of two search scenes now from the FBI.
And they all thought they were going to get away with it, too, that as long as they could get Biden in there, then Trump could never come back and they could get away with stealing classified documents, writing about it in their books, going out lying about their fraudulent investigations that they all helped create in order to blame Russia and Putin and all the things. So we know John Bolton and what he has done. And remember this clip from him a while ago. Breaking 911 grabbed it for us. Says, remember when John Bolton was on MSNBC having a self-enjoyment festival about the FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago? Here was what he said about classified documents before. So why can't he be held to his own standard?
Any given moment. But I don't think he cared about the classification system. I don't think he appreciated the sensitivity of this information, and he didn't appreciate the sensitivity of how it was often acquired, the so-called sources and methods. So this had been briefed to him before I arrived. It was repeated frequently. I think it simply had no impact on him whatever.
So he's very upset. Trump doesn't understand it. The documents are so sanctified and nobody can touch him. But the problem with him, of course, is he was never the president of America and is never going to be the president of America. So his lecture to us about how other people who are not the president, and you might not like this, and if you don't, you can leave our country, but we have a system where the president is the executive branch. Okay, it all resides in the president, not an office of morons. One individual, that's the point. And that person has special privileges. It's codified in the Constitution, special powers that John Bolton doesn't have, that Mike Pence arguably didn't have, okay, that Joe Biden, when he was the senator, didn't have. And now Bolton doesn't have those powers. And so we'll see what they find. Maybe he doesn't have any classified documents. Maybe it's about something else. But if they're walking out with boxes, I think we can presume probably has something to do with documents. And we know that Tim Burchett is having some fun with this. He says, I can't help but think about Roger Stone this morning. We remember Roger Stone. His house was raided and he was arrested and paraded in front of the press. I can see him smiling over today's events. Clearly. And we saw the same thing with many other individuals. In fact, Bannon and Navarro were also talking about this. Navarro was out yesterday explaining that Walter Giardina arrested him and put him in shackles, a 70-year-old man in shackles at Reagan Airport to haul him off the tarmac like a psycho. So then they're going to come lecture us about the weaponization of the Justice Department. No. This is just a simple investigation. But Roger Stone did ask this question. Good morning, John Bolton. How does it feel to have your home raided at 6 o'clock in the morning? Question to you. Roger says, wait, where was CNN? I don't know if they were there for the initial raid. They showed up after the fact. We just listened to the clip. But yeah, remember they were there like staking out Roger Stone. They had like telephoto lens. They're like, oh, perfect. Feds are like, you guys set up? Like CNN, Caitlin Collins like, we're ready. We're ready, Andy McCabe, go. Roger Stone. So shout out to Roger Stone for getting some satisfaction for justice. These people perverted justice. Now justice shall be done. And they're going to screech that only their version of justice is appropriate, but we tried their version of justice, okay? And the American people voted against it. We saw what their little plan was to try to prosecute Trump 4 times, throw him off the ballot, multiple civil lawsuits, $500 million plus in fines and assessments from psycho judges in New York. And now we should play nice with them after all of that? No, they set the terms. They set the rules on these things, and we have to restore balance. So sometimes you have to go after the people who created the imbalance in order to assemble justice, which is what we're doing. So we also have this. Trump got asked about this today. So he was out. He's saying, we're going to do some more renovations around here because our District of Columbia needs to be a lot more beautified than it is currently. Here's what he said when asked about the Bolton raid.
No, I don't know about it. I saw it on television this morning. I'm not a fan of John Bolton. He's a real sort of a lowlife.
True.
When I hired him, he served a good purpose because, as you know, he was one of the people that forced Bush to do the ridiculous bombings in the Middle East. Bolton, he wants to always kill people, and he's very bad at what he does. But he worked out great for me because every time he doesn't talk, he's like a very quiet person, except on television. If he could say something bad about Trump, he'll always do that. But he really doesn't talk. He's quiet. And I'd walk into a room with him with a foreign country, and the foreign country would give me everything because they said, oh no, they're going to get blown up because John Bolton's there. He's not a smart guy, but he could be a very unpatriotic guy. I mean, we're going to find out. I know nothing about it. I just saw it this morning. They did a raid.
Do you expect the DOJ to brief you on this?
Yeah, they'll brief me probably today sometime.
And the foreign minister.
I tell Pam and I tell the group. I don't want to know about it. Just you have to do what you have to do. I don't want to know about it. It's not necessary. I could know about it. I could be the one starting it. I'm actually the chief law enforcement officer, but I feel that it's better this way.
All right, so that's from the president. And I think we had a little audio sync.
No, I don't know about it.
Sync issue going on over there. But we're keeping our eye on the Trump announcement. Still not seeing anything out there. And we got Carney, it looks like. He's talking down there in the picture-in-picture. So we'll just keep barreling forward to see what else is cooking out there. We got this one from CNN. Looks like they're not happy about this raid on Bolton because they're like, he's like our dude. Like, we bring him on here all the time to talk to us about stuff. So what are we going to do?
Assessing the House still on the scene right now.
Got one interesting tidbit, which is that tweet you just mentioned from FBI Director Kash Patel saying no one is above the law. FBI agents on mission. The Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, just retweeted it. So, again, this is social media sort of play-by-play here.
Yeah.
But you now have the Vice President retweeting this, this statement. Again, it's not specific, but it was put out during the time of this FBI search with now the Vice President leaning in, which I imagine will only lead to more questions about the timing of this. And
the Attorney General also had retweeted with comments this morning as well.
So, political.
So they're tracking every single retweet of this phrase, no one's above the law. What is the big problem with this? No one's above the law. They said that 1,000 times a day, every day, in our faces for 4 years. Remember that crap? Every day. Constantly. Now it's about the law. Now it's like the tattooed on their foreheads. And now they're like, I can't believe you're saying that to us. How dare you? We're liberals. We are above the law. Answer, you're not. The American people said no. Your version of justice has been rejected. And now real justice is back in play. And you're going to pay the price for your crimes. Now, here was another one from John Bolton a while ago on with Caitlin Collins, right? This is why they're having a hard time on it. And she's going to be explaining, or he's going to be explaining something that is not going to happen.
I think a lot of Republicans right now just wish Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, and a number of other Trump nominees would just go away. I think a lot of...
Look how upset he is. He did like a whole head twirl on that right there. Oh, yeah, man. He's like, just go away. No, they're not going away. And he closed his eyes because he doesn't want to face the reality. He's about to get indicted for something. So we know, right? The pattern exists where they use their positions of power to ensconce themselves and immunize themselves from any liability. And we'll talk about this coming up with Comey, but they are all working together and they're all in this kind of unspoken or spoken agreement to just stop Trump. That's who they hate. And he wishes they would go away. They'll go away when you're in jail, John. So, of course, we'll keep our eye on that. Now, elsewhere, we see that they are not letting up. Fraudsters are in trouble. Document thieves are busted. No one's above the law, not even Lisa Cook. And so while Bolton's getting raided, Bill Pulte came out and he said, we have obtained a new document that Lisa Cook, the Federal Reserve Governor, Trump commented on her too coming up, says while serving as the Federal Reserve Governor, okay, her prior statement, this fraudster mortgage Federal Reserve Governor, she explained, I wasn't on the board at the time. I wasn't a governor at the time, so I can commit fraud as long as I'm not a public official or something, I think was her defense. But now he says, actually wrong. You were serving as the governor. In this document on February 28, 2023, Lisa Cook, Biden's historic appointee, she represents to the U.S. government that the Atlanta property is her personal residence in Fannyland. Now, however, Lisa Cook, as a then sitting Fed governor and 6 months earlier on September 1st, 2022, appears to have listed that same property for rent. Busted. That's curious. Mortgage on a personal residence from the credit union. And then that same property posted up for rent on Zillow. Oh gosh, didn't even want to do an Airbnb, too much work for her. So she puts it up for rent. And then she said this, I certify that the statements I have made in this form are true and complete and correct, signed my primary personal residence. Busted! And so Bolton's getting hit. Now we've got Lisa Cook, who's about to be fired if she doesn't resign immediately. Here's what Trump said.
You're going to fire Lisa Cook, the Fed governor, over her
I'll
mortgage
fire her
fraud?
if she doesn't resign, yeah. What she did was bad. So I'll fire her if she doesn't resign.
Get out, pack your bags, pack your boxes, and go talk to John Bolton's lawyers. Fox News also shared this. On this, okay, there was no basis to go raid Mar-a-Lago. Trump was the president. He has declassification powers. He has constitutional rights to his documents in writing, the opinions of his advisors in writing. It's in the Constitution. And he was exercising all of those powers. They raided him under a false pretext because they needed to go get some documents back that were probably pretty damning to them. They did not want him to have those. So they authorized federal agents to come in. They approved the use of deadly force. They didn't say go shoot anybody, but they said if you need to, you're authorized to do that, right? It's in the document. It might be a form document or whatever. I don't care. It's the president of the United States. You shouldn't be using form documents for that. You shouldn't be raiding his house over classified documents. When Hillary Clinton nuked classified documents off her private server, nobody raided her house. So they opened the floodgates on this. They perverted the law. We had some of the worst, most corrupt FBI agents one could possibly imagine working on this, not to mention illegitimate U.S. attorneys like Jack Smith and Jay Bratt, these people who have been shown to have a history of anti-Trump bias. They launched the raid. Now they're going to turn around and scream at everybody else for saying no one's above the law. Here's what Kash Patel had to say on Fox.
There was no crime. There was no predicate to go and invade Donald Trump's home. We have answered that definitively. Now, you know me, working backwards from that point, we are going to hold people accountable who weaponize that system of justice for the following reason. We, the FBI, must restore accountability and credibility to the American public so we can arrest more top 10 predators, so we can go after more terrorists, so we can find the other people involved in Abbey-gate. These are the cases.
And we want to see justice, and this is hopefully the start of something big. Byron Donalds was also out saying, look, this is across the board, and I think it goes across parties, right? It's not just the Democrats, by the way. I think you got to be very cautious with Boltons and Grahams and Pompeos and Cruzes and all of these other people who probably have an ulterior motive in mind and an alternate interest for what they'd like to see done, all working against the president. But, oftentimes the biggest threat to you is not your enemy. It's the enemy within, right? And I think even Lincoln was talking about that. So here is what Byron Donalds had to say. Justice must be served. Let's go, Byron.
State bar to probe whether Clinton's involvement in the Russia collusion made-up story by her campaign affects her ability to practice law in Arkansas. Your reaction?
I think that's an appropriate complaint. We know that Hillary Clinton concocted a scheme that abused the intelligence community, abused the FISA court system, just so they could spy on her rival at the time, then candidate Donald Trump. And then they continued that scheme to undermine the administration of the 45th president, Donald Trump. And she gets a law license. As far as I remember, the bar for getting a law license is quite high. The ethical bar is quite high. And so, yes, they should be looking at her law license in Arkansas, quite frankly, and every other state in the country.
Well, look, she's got the Clinton machine. The Democrat machine is so strong that they just keep getting away with everything. Do you think we're finally going to see accountability now that the DNI has put out these declassified items?
I believe so. I think enough's enough. The American people are tired of these things just becoming news cycle stories. They want to see action. And I do believe that what DNI Gabbard has been doing is going to lead to real accountability. Look, what you can't do is spy on your political rival and then weaponize the government against your political rival if he happens to become president. It's un-American. You simply can't do it. People do need to be held accountable. The first start of that is what the Trump administration has already started to do, which is removing and revoking security clearances for people who were involved in my view, something that was way bigger than Watergate or even the auto pen. This is a real scandal in America's constitutional republic. Revoking their security clearances is the first step in true accountability.
Yeah, and arrests will be the nice beginning of a conclusion resulting in convictions for the people who did it. because they did this on both ends. Okay, when Trump was running, Hillary Clinton was seeding a fake collusion hoax to try to stop him from winning. Then when he won, they took that, used that fake campaign memo as a pretext, and then tried to impeach Trump and actually stop the transition of power by saying the Russians were ultimately the ones helping the president win. And if they could create enough support on January 7th, when they issue the ICA after the December meeting, maybe they can stall this out before the inauguration day on the 20th. There was a desperate attempt, and they did it. They had meetings. It's all in documents. We'll talk about that in the next segment. But today, John Bolton raided, not arrested yet. Got a little ahead of myself, but he got raided today. And I'm sure many other people are concerned about this. I was thinking, who else is going through their closets right now looking for classified documents? You got to imagine it's a bunch of people on the J6 committee. I think Liz Cheney's probably doing a double check today. You know, little Dick Cheney too. Everybody's going, oh crap. Do we check that one closet in the back? Yeah, I think so. Did we? We better check that again. Yeah. And then of course, they bring out the shredder and the burn bag. So Bolton raided. We're going to keep our eye on this one. Lisa Cook also next under investigation. And we're excited to see progress because we don't want criminals. And as the Democrats told us in our government, they said no one's above the law. Now we're seeing it happen. All right, good news there. Now, still waiting for the president. Let's see if we got any updates over here. Let's see if C-SPAN has a feed for us. Nope, they do not. So Trump making an announcement. Still don't really know what it is. We have the cables all on commercial at the same time, which is just perfect. They do that a lot. All at the same time. All go to commercial. And we'll await the president. We'll just keep on plugging along. We got some other stuff to talk about right here. And this is another good drop. Shout out to our friends over at Just the News for giving us this one, or releasing this one. And here is how this one goes. James Comey has been busted for a while. We know that he was involved in leaking classified information to the media. In a series of these declassified and newly released documents, we've been able to piece it all together. And this is another document that just came down that makes it even worse, because we know that John Durham, the so-called special counsel who was supposed to investigate a lot of this stuff, did that and then basically created this little concoction that would result in no charges, no liability for the FBI director, James Comey, or for anybody involved in the leaks, including James Baker in the Michael Sussman trial, which we covered here. So this is explosive stuff, and it just keeps coming out. I think one little slice after another. It's kind of like death by a thousand cuts, but just releasing these documents in a piecemeal fashion, and we're just starting to see the full picture come out. And we got a great summation of this. So before we zoom in on the details, let me just share this with you from this fella. His name is Hans Monkey. All right. And he wrote this book called Swift Boating America. And it is exposing the Russiagate fraud from the Steele dossier to the FBI Crossfire Hurricane. And this thing is sourced out the wazoo. All right. It's like a real serious thing. So sources, and you can see the back, the appendix, it's all sourced out. Right. So the guy wrote the book on it. All right. So here's what he says. Today's FBI document drop shows how corruption is engineered to guarantee no one is ever held accountable. Okay, very simple 7 steps. Follow the steps and you can be a corrupt Democrat too. 1, James Comey, the FBI director, orders his chief of staff to leak to the New York Times. Okay, follow the bouncing ball. From Comey, chief of staff, to the Times. The chief of staff says, well, I'm not going to leak that. Are you crazy? I'm not going to be the one responsible. So how about I just tell the FBI lawyer, general counsel, which is James Baker, who is the star witness in the Michael Durham trial. We talked about it. He was working at the FBI, right? And Hillary Clinton's campaign lawyers went to go meet with him. So the chief of staff then, so it goes from Comey, chief of staff, to Baker, who's a lawyer. Baker leaks. He carries out the leak. Now, Baker is caught leaking, but he says, oh, It's an innocent mistake. I shouldn't have given that out. I'm only the FBI lawyer, but I'm so dumb. And in the Michael Sussman trial, we saw how dumb everybody was. Like, very smart people. Mark Elias, he's a detestable person, but he's still not a dummy, right? He's beaten a lot of Republicans in various locations and courts and with corrupt judges and all the things. So you got to take them at their, threat level, essentially. And so Baker was receiving the information from those lawyers. So then Durham comes in, okay? Mop up, clean up Durham, because that's what the DOJ is. They just protect the institutional power that they have. John Durham, worthless, he declines to prosecute. Then in the Michael Sussman trial that we saw, which was a rigged scam that John Durham didn't even do anything in, Durham then makes Baker his star witness in the Michael Sussman trial. We covered it. We read through a bunch of transcripts here. He was sick and he got acquitted. Clinton campaign lawyer Michael Sussman, right? So Durham then makes Baker, who's already a liar, from our interpretation, the star witness. Then Baker derails the trial by concealing key text message evidence because he doesn't want to talk about it. Durham's not going to talk about it. Sussman's not going to talk about it. So no one's going to talk about it. Isn't it convenient? No one gets charged. Everyone walks away as if nothing ever happened. And that's the pattern, right? It just happens over and over again. And it's just a mop-up. It's a cleanup crew. That's why they bring in Maureen Comey to come prosecute Maxwell. Give me a break. Or here, you bring in Durham to come investigate this and charge Michael Sussman, and that's it. And he gets acquitted because you kind of threw this trial. He charged somebody else with, I think, false reporting or something. It was ridiculous. Like, basically nothing came out of Durham. And it was a cover-up. He covered up for Comey. And so Just the News is explaining the headline. We'll look at the document here in 1 second. But prosecutors, they say, secured evidence that Comey authorized classified leaks. Illegal. Leaking classified information. But the prosecutors declined to charge them because John Durham's pathetic. Federal prosecutors gathered evidence from Comey's top lieutenants. They knew that he authorized the leak of classified information to reporters right before 2016. But they didn't bring any criminal charges against him because he's above the law. The revelations are bombshells involving ex-FBI General Counsel James Baker and ex-Comey Chief of Staff called James Rybicki. They were memorialized in documents that we're going to read. Bondi said here, intervened, eliminated the redactions. They were originally unavailable. You couldn't read the materials in the writings. Bondi then intervened, cut out the redactions, dispatching new versions of the memo to the judiciary committees, and now we're just getting the memo. Now, the memo details evidence and interviews gathered by U.S. Postal Inspection Service agents about classified information that was leaked to the New York Times back in 2000, October 16, ahead of the election where Trump beat Hillary. And one memo reads the following. We'll jump into it, so let's do that now. Here is what we're looking at. And this document is an FD 1057. We're opening up an investigation. And this is from the FBI. You can see this was drafted back 1/31, 2019. Let's see what we've got. They say the synopsis of this material is we want to open up this investigation called Tropic Vortex, code name. And it's about unauthorized public disclosure of U.S. government classified information. And we've seen other troves, right? There were a bunch of these. And in one of our mind maps, let me see if I can just grab this real quick. One of our mind maps, we talked a lot about these. And let's see, do we have a mind map on this one? Yeah, remember this one? We talked about it here. All of these were different classified document leak investigations. So the FBI is terrible at this. They already had an Arctic haze investigation, remember? And they investigated themselves. And it was about these documents. There were 4 documents that were written, one in the Washington Post, one in the New York Times, one in the, another one here from Washington Post, Wall Street Journal. Classified information's inside. Each one of these prongs is a separate investigation. How the documents get leaked? Here are the predicating articles. Oh, more leaks happening over here. So the FBI says, we better open up Foggy Falls. Remember Foggy Falls? Oh, some other leaks happened there. They did this 7 times and they didn't find any leakers, okay? Because they're idiots at the FBI or they're corrupt. They're either terrible at their jobs because they've investigated themselves 7 times and haven't been able to find anything. and continue to fail. So this was one of those. This is Tropic Vortex, right? And this was the one that was originally redacted. And so the predicating articles for this one was some unspecified New York Times article, October 2016, and another New York Times article says Comey asked the Justice Department to reject Trump's wiretapping claim, saying, I wasn't wiretapped, right? Comey's defending himself. So we've got this memo and this conclusion that we'll get to, but now these are newly unredacted documents. And so again, the FBI is terrible. Nobody gets prosecuted. They can't figure out what the heck's going on. So here's the synopsis. On or about March 22nd, 2017, the DOJ acting Deputy Attorney General, and so Trump is now in office, right? He just won the 2016 election. He's taken power in January. So the new acting Deputy AG, Dana Boente, directed the U.S. Attorney's Office in Connecticut. Assistant U.S. Attorney John Durham to lead an investigation based on criminal referral from this person regarding an unauthorized public disclosure of classified information. Okay, so John Durham gets the referral. Hey, it's a criminal referral. We've read many of them here. In general, these investigations are conducted by the FBI's Counterintelligence Division with oversight from the National Security. However, at least one of the subjects of this investigation is a former senior FBI official who previously worked in the National Security Division. And so to avoid a potential conflict of interest or an appearance thereof, the Deputy AG, Assistant Deputy AG, assigned the investigation to the U.S. Attorney Durham and the Postal Inspection Service instead of the NSD and the FBI. Okay, so this goes outside of the normal kind of regular processing for prosecution. And she sends it over to Durham, who's a cleanup crew guy, along with the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. They're like, oh, maybe somebody's just writing these in letters and sending them via hard, snail mail to the New York Times. On or about December 22nd, 2017, Durham and the Postal Service completed their investigations, and they provided a memo with their conclusions to Jeff Sessions. Remember him? Now, the memo is classified and will be submitted in a separate document. We'd like to see that memo because it's all about Comey. So then in January 2019, the Connecticut received a draft memo, or CD received a draft memo. That's the Counterintelligence Division from the District of Columbia. So FBI Counterintelligence Division, as you see here, they're calling that CD, got a memo from the District of Columbia regarding the investigation. Now, upon finalization, the memo is also going to be submitted. Then the DC office, U.S. Attorney, DOJ, indicated the investigation may contain information relevant to other FBI investigations, including but not limited to Echo's Fate, okay, Foggy Falls, Genetic Christmas, and Siren's Lore, which are all of the other investigations, right? Oh, classified documents. We have to open up a new investigation. Where'd those come from? Let's call it Siren's Lore. Let's call it Riding Hood. Let's call it Genetic Christmas. And we'll just enjoy ourselves not finding anybody responsible 7 times in a row. So we go back to the document. Now they tell us in response, they say this guy's probably he might, in other words, Comey might be the dude responsible for all of these, right? Like, all right, if it's Comey on this one, maybe it's Comey on Echo's Fate. Maybe it's Comey on Foggy Hills. So in response, then they directed the Washington field office to open up a full investigation. And we want you to look into this. And so therefore, Washington is opening up a full investigation into Tropic Vortex, one of the final investigations, about unauthorized public disclosure of classified information. Now, as directed by the Counterintelligence Division Policy Guide, this investigation is being placed in a prohibited status and does not require any additional approvals to do so. Now, as directed by the policy, this investigation is being conducted as a criminal investigation and is designated a sensitive investigative matter because at least one of these dudes is a former senior FBI official, James Comey. Now, the Washington point of contact for this investigation is Special Agent so-and-so located here. And to add a letterhead memo, here's another document saying they're adding a memo that to this so that we can't read. Thank you. And here's notification of the initial investigation. Okay, standard cover sheet. What are they investigating? Here's what we got, some more details that support the opening of this investigation. On or about March 22nd, DOJ Acting Attorney General Dana Boente said, John Durham, you got a criminal referral. And you're going to be in charge of this. And I think this is basically what we just read. Yeah. And one is a former FBI official. So we continue. We've got another document. Case closing now. Concurrence. All right. So we've got all of that evidence. They're opening up a criminal investigation. We see it start to develop. And then we get to the closing document. Enclosed are the following items. Well, this is now February 25th, 2020. Okay, we got the 2020 election coming up soon. Now, and John Durham's doing his thing. So based on the information provided below, this communication provides Section Chief concurrence to close this investigation. Says on March 22nd, the DOJ acting attorney, Deputy Boente, said John Durham go investigate a criminal referral that came from these dudes about somebody leaking docs. The referral indicated the New York Times published something. And in general, investigations are conducted by the Counterintelligence Division. However, because one of the subjects of the investigation was James Baker, who we know was the FBI General Counsel, he had previously worked there. I don't know why they didn't redact that name. So it's got to be Comey, who is the only one left, basically. Let's see if Comey's name is unredacted in here. Yeah, there it is. So I'm not sure exactly what they're redacting here or why, but the USA Durham memo is classified something and is maintained in a 1A package. See that redaction. And portions of the Durham memo at this classification are also provided as follows. Now, the October New York Times article indicated that there were two U.S. government sources for the article. The Postal Service inspection revealed Baker, James Baker, to be one of the two sources. Okay, so they knew it was this dude. No charges for him. However, the investigation also revealed that Baker disclosed the classified info to the New York Times under the belief that he was ultimately instructed and authorized to do so by James Comey. Okay, James Comey said leak it. So he did it. It was approved. For example, during interviews, Baker indicated that the FBI Chief of Staff, James Rybicki, instructed him, Baker, to disclose information to the Times. What? Baker said, so Rybicki was conveying this instruction as authorization from Comey. Rybicki, no charges. Now, additional details are classified this, and they're included in this attachment that we can't read. Now, the postal investigation into this something, something, and something, also additional details are classified at this level, and they're also included that we won't read because we can't read. Based on the evidence, which includes interviews, access, emails, phone records, and something, potentially applicable law and criminal statutes, and the USA principles of federal prosecution, the USA Durham memo recommended no prosecution of Baker or anyone else for this leak. The full details of this recommendation are in the memo. Now, in January, the Washington field office received a draft memo from the DC people saying that in or about February 19, Washington received the official DC memo via something. In the USA DC memo, the DC attorneys, they indicated that the Postal Service investigation and the Durham memo may contain information relevant to other investigations for other leaks, like Genetic Christmas and Echo's Fate and all the other Sirens lore and Foggy Falls. They failed on all of them. They couldn't find anything. The FBI's either corrupt or they're idiots and terrible at their job. So they really don't have much other options than that. In response, so-and-so directed the Washington field office to open a full investigation for the purpose of reviewing the postal investigation and the Durham memo and see if there's any other people we can find who actually leaked it. If it's not Comey and Baker, who else is it? So then the Washington field office completed a review, and they noted significant findings in a document called Redacted and provided them to the attorneys, agents, and professional staff, and everybody who was working on all of those investigations. Now, Washington did not identify any additional investigative leads regarding Baker or the second source, whoever that is, but they did identify one additional investigative lead to follow. Here's what it is. On March 4th, 2017, President Trump is in office. He tweeted that he had just learned that Obama was tapping phones at Trump Tower back in 2016. So then on March 5th, the New York Times published an article titled "Comey Asks Justice Department to Reject Trump's Wiretapping Claim," right? That's the March article. Now, the March article reported that a U.S. government official indicated Comey asked the DOJ to publicly reject Trump's tweets. Okay, Comey is now at the FBI trying to overrule the president. Okay, Trump says this, and the FBI, of course, is a division of the DOJ that works under the executive branch. So Comey wants to push back on that. That's not true, says Comey. So he wants to leak it. But the DOJ had not released any such statement. The tweets and the articles occurred shortly after the initiation of the investigation from the Postal Service. And during interviews for the postal investigation, multiple DOJ and FBI officials were asked about their discussions, actions, and responses to the tweets in the article. And although these officials provided opinions on the identity of the official, the investigation did not determine who it was. Okay. Yeah, it's Comey. On October 21st, Washington field office compiled findings from the post office, and the findings revealed that Rybicki, James Comey's chief of staff, forwarded an email containing a proposed statement to the news media regarding the tweets to his personal email account. All right. So James Comey's chief of staff is now facilitating conversations with the media because of James Comey. James Comey runs him. The proposed statement originated from Comey himself and appeared to be at the unleveled level of classification, unclassified. Now, Washington assessed that Rybicki did so in furtherance of potentially unauthorized disclosure to the news media, which appeared to be at the implicit direction of James Comey. Okay, right there. Unauthorized leaking, unauthorized disclosures directly to the FBI director, former. Washington field office documented these findings and their assessment in this memo and presented them to the attorneys and other people, everybody else involved in the other investigations. And so based on the findings in the assessment, they issued a preservation letter for his personal email in furtherance of this. We want you to not delete a dang thing. However, the Washington, D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office declined to pursue any additional legal process as the proposed statement appeared to be unclassified. So Washington then also prepared materials regarding the proposed statement for use in an interview with Rybicki, but again, D.C. declined to use them. And as such, Washington considers this complete. So on January 30th, D.C. DOJ issued a prosecutorial declination. Another one, right? 7 out of 7. They're so useless. They can't even find anybody who did it. Via a meeting, and they sent it back over to Washington. They said, well, we're done. Yeah, we're done. We're going to close this out. Closing letterhead. It says on December 11th, Durham completed their investigation. And the New York Times article indicated there were 2 sources, but the investigation revealed Baker to be one of them. No consequences for him. However, I think he's working for X or something. Did he go? I think he went over there originally. Went over to work for Twitter back then, remember? However, the U.S. Postal Inspection Team also revealed that Baker disclosed U.S. government classified information under the belief that he was ultimately instructed and authorized to do so by James Comey, right? It goes right back to Comey. For example, during interviews, Baker indicated the chief of staff, James Rybicki, instructed him, Baker, to disclose the information. Additional details are classified, but that's what he said. Now, lots of redactions here, and based on the evidence in interviews and access to these records and more, potentially applicable law, John Durham, pathetic, says no prosecution of Baker or anyone else, definitely not Comey. And so in January, they received a draft memo saying lots of redactions. We might want to use this stuff in all of our other failed investigations, and so they passed it along. Washington then completed a review and noted significant findings, but they did not notify any additional investigative leads about Baker or the second source, and they did identify one additional investigative lead as follows. Here's what they got. On March 4th, Trump tweeted he had just learned that Obama was hacking his phones, and then the New York Times article came out soon thereafter. So then in October, Washington compiled findings from the post office investigations, and they revealed that Rybicki forwarded the email, as we know. Now, based on the findings, they issued a preservation letter. A lot of this is duplicative to what we've already read. Finally, we get the closeout. saying the justification for closing this is because we have a declination letter. Look at this memo that we read about why. And we've completed all logical investigations. We've discontinued all investigative methods. So all of this was one giant just waste of time. Great job, guys, at the FBI. Investigated. They know exactly who did it, how it happened. They know how it happened because it's happened 7 times. All right. This is all of them. Let's expand this puppy out so you can see all of this. This is all of the investigations, okay, that the FBI did. Our useless government. And guess who got charged as a result of all of this, all this leaked documents? Nobody. Because they're terrible at their job. They can't figure out anything. And then when they have it, somebody dead to rights, James Baker and James Comey, then all of a sudden there's nothing, no evidence there. All investigative leads are closed. John Durham helps facilitate the cover-up. And so it's nice to see it coming out. Tulsi Gabbard was talking about this as well. Here's what she had to say in cleaning out a lot of these corrupt intelligence assets.
This is first an important step that we took yesterday in announcing what I've called ODNI 2.0. This organization that I lead was created in the wake of the egregious intelligence failures around the Islamist terrorist attack on 9/11. It was created around recognizing in hindsight what happened with that manufactured intelligence of Iraq WMDs under President Bush in order to have an oversight element across the intelligence community that roots out that politicization, that ensures that the intelligence that's being collected is being integrated. The left hand is talking to the right hand, and ultimately that the President of the United States is getting intelligence products that are timely, that are relevant, and that are apolitical and objective. So what I found in my organization that I'm leading currently was that there were a lot of pockets where the deep state actors were very entrenched and were politicizing their centers or their positions either against the American people, using their authorities to force censorship on Americans, for example, under the Biden administration, who dissented with Biden's policies, or those who essentially were in positions where they're creating intelligence products and inserting their own partisan political opinions and views in the intelligence documents. It's very simple. The mandate the intelligence community has is to find the truth and to tell the truth. We see in too many cases, not only in ODNI, but across the intelligence community, that is not the case.
All right, Tulsi Gabbard explaining that they're going to continue to dig and root out these bad actors in our intelligence agencies, which is a good start. We also saw her earlier this week cut the budget, it sounds like, at the ODNI by 40%, saying they're going to have major reductions across the board, which is great news because there's a lot of leftover legacy assets from the prior version of America that thought it was appropriate to pervert the system of justice. As long as they won, that's not how it's going to work anymore. Tulsi Gabbard is helping to lead the way. So shout out to Just the News for dropping the docs for us. Shout out to Pam Bondi for releasing the materials. Grab Hans Monkey's book, Swift Boating America, if you want to check it out. The dude knows what he's talking about, and he's explaining to us this is a cover-up. No one ever gets busted for this because they all are working together to make sure they reach the outcome they want. We'll keep our eye on these leaks, my friends. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, we've got one more update on the day, but we're waiting for the president, man. And I'm not seeing anything from Trump so far, so we got a little bit of a delay. I don't know what's going on with that. Let's take a look at the presidential schedule to see if we can refresh this puppy up. And here, he arrives at the White House, departs the Kennedy Center for the White House. This is delayed. We got a delay. Trump got back to the White House at 12:35, so he should be there. And we're waiting any minute for it to happen. But as you can see, the cables don't have it either. Fox is talking about male NFL cheerleaders, which is a strange thing that's going on. Yeah. For all the football fans. Yeah. Anyways, Think Tank saying we got to stop. JD Vance is out talking about Bolton. Let's hear what this one is.
Especially if they disagree with us politically, you shouldn't throw people willy-nilly in prison. You should let the law drive these determinations, and that's what we're doing.
But you know, a lot of people have already looked at this and said this looks a lot like retribution. Is this retribution?
Well, who has said it looks a lot like retribution, Kristen? A lot of people who tried to throw Donald Trump in prison for completely fake charges that were later thrown out by multiple different courts. I suspect that if the media and the American people let this case actually unfold, if they let the investigation unfold as it's currently doing, they're going to find out that what we're doing is being very deliberate and being very driven by the national interest and by the law here, and that's as it should be.
You can watch that full interview on Meet the Press this Sunday on...
All right, so that's over there at MSNBC. And we'll keep going, my friends, because we've got some Supreme Court business now to attend to. And we love some good filings from our Supreme Court. And here is the latest. Victory for the Trump administration in a very close decision that has some interesting complexities to it, including the answer to the question, what is John Roberts doing, the Chief Justice of the United States of America? Got a 5-4 decision here with a nice decision from Justice Gorsuch as well, who is scolding the lower level courts for refusing to abide by the Supreme Court rulings. We're talking about judges like Boasberg and Zenas and others who think that they can continue to exercise jurisdiction over cases even though the Supreme Court has stripped them of it. Now we got a decision from the court, and we also got a dissent from Justice Jackson. She's being very Justice Jackson today. So this came down in the case of National Institutes of Health versus the American Public Health Association, all these associations suing, saying, you can't take our money away. You can't stop us from continuing our grift for all eternity. Now what we have here is the application for a stay of the lower level ruling that went up to Judge Jackson is granted in part and denied in part. Here's what we've got happening. The application is granted as to the district court's judgment vacating the government's termination of various research-related grants, saying the APA and their limited waiver of sovereign immunity does not provide that the district court with jurisdiction to adjudicate the claims based on any of this. And while the loss of the money is not typically considered irreparable harm, that is not irrevocably expended. And so the government faces the harm here. And so we'll just get into the meat and potatoes here. So let's get to the full decision. So it's kind of a convoluted one, but here you go. Chief Justice Roberts is joining the left, Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson, who would all deny the application. Now others, Alito, Justice Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Thomas, okay, so we got a 4-4 kind of a split happening here. John Roberts joins the left. We've got another 4 over here who would grant the application in full. And Barrett is kind of splitting it. So it's a partial grant of the application for a stay. Here's what she says. In recent months, the National Institutes of Health has worked to align its funding with Trump's policy orders. They issued internal guidance describing the new priorities. They say, we're not going to fund DEI objectives. We're not funding gender identity. We're not funding COVID. It's our priorities. Nor will it continue the practice of awarding grants to researchers based on race. Which is crazy. It's like, wow, it's crazy. After review, NIH issued numerous decisions terminating existing grants, and various plaintiffs sued, challenging the documents. You can't take our money away. The district court said, yeah, you can't take their money. That's unlawful. And they vacated Trump's guidance. They said, nope, sorry, Trump, you're illegal. We're in charge. The First Circuit denied the government's request for a stay. Both courts treated this termination as distinct. Like the agencies are separate and apart, and they can run themselves outside of the executive branch. So the government sought a stay. Now, as today's order states, the district court likely lacked jurisdiction to hear the challenges to grant terminations, which belong to the Court of Federal Claims. You filed in the wrong jurisdiction, in the wrong court. You don't have the right to come into this court and make the claim that the government canceling your grant is a constitutional violation or some violation under the APA. But in my view, the government is not entitled to a stay of the judgments insofar as they vacate the guidance documents. Well, let's see what she says. Plaintiffs frequently seek vacature of internal agency guidance on an arbitrary and capricious grounds. Now, that the agency guidance discusses its policies does not transform that into being well-founded. Now, she says the Chief Justice and Justice Jackson, they say that because the district court is the right forum for the challenge to this guidance about how the decisions are being made, it is necessarily also the right forum to challenge the terminations. That's from Roberts. But both logic and law, however, support channeling challenges to the grant terminations and the guidance to different forums. Like if you're upset about Trump's order saying that you can't give, grants to black people or something just by virtue of the fact that they're black, which I thought was like discriminatory or something, but they have, they figured out. So they say, you get this because you're, black. So they sue, somebody sues. They say, well, the decision about revoking that, like the policy, internal documents and guidance, that's one claim. But the person who got the terminated grant, let's say a black person, for example, they lose their grant. They have a separate claim, right? Challenging the guidance separate and apart. I have been harmed. I lost my grant. I got it under Joe. It's not because I'm black. It's because of these other things. And I'm doing great work. And now I'm going to make my claim that my grant was wrongfully terminated. That's great. That's separate. Separate from Trump's entire new policy. And this is what Amy Coney Barrett is saying in breaking this apart. Now, Roberts and everybody and the left would say that all of this can be just, bundled in together in one claim in DC. Amy saying you got to split them out. So, and she'll uphold the guidance challenge, but not the other challenge. So first, vacating the guidance does not reinstate the terminated grants. If one simply flowed from the other, they would have just only needed to vacate the guidance itself. Here, the district court separately vacated the grant terminations and ordered the government to pay them money. Now, second, the law, right? So the facts just don't make any sense. She says they're kind of separate things. Even if the guidance and grant terminations are linked, if you vacate the guidance, it does not necessarily void the decisions made under it, as other case precedent says. The claims are legally distinct. And if the CFC has exclusive jurisdiction over terminations, the other jurisdiction, then they can't get around that exclusive jurisdiction by trying to say that we're going to package this as a constitutional claim. Right on. Two-track litigation results from the jurisdictional scheme governing actions of the United States court, which often requires two separate actions. This is a lot of work. You got to file in two places. And Justice Jackson is not right either, says Amy Coney Barrett, that they're not going to have any relief in any other forum. Each forum can fully adjudicate their claims. If the CFC says the government breached a grant agreement to that specific one, it can award relief to the grantee. If the district court says the agency guidance violates the APA, then they can vacate the guidance and the agency can't use it going forward. And so you can still resolve both claims, but they got to go to the right courts. Jackson's fundamental objection is sending the grant termination claims to the CFC. But California, that other Supreme Court case, has already addressed this. And it looks like we got an announcement coming in from the president. Fox News just cut over to it. So let's go there.
FIFA President Gianni Infantino back to the White House for a major announcement about one of the most anticipated competitions in all of sports, the
soccer
2026. And this is a big deal, I'll tell you. I was so happy to get it. The 2026 FIFA World Cup. And it's going to be the World Cup as we know it.
It's a World Cup announcement?
Probably the biggest event in sports, I guess, Johnny, right?
Yeah.
On December 5th of this year, the 2026 FIFA World Cup draw will take place at the Kennedy Center. Some people refer to it as the Trump Kennedy Center, but we're not prepared to do that quite yet, maybe in a week or so. But right here in Washington, D.C., it's a tremendous honor to bring the global event and this incredible group of people and these unbelievable athletes, the best athletes in the world, to the cultural center of our nation's capital. I just left the Kennedy Center. We're spending a lot of money wisely on making it really beautiful. It's going to be beautiful again. It's like Washington, D.C. We had, by the way, in Washington, D.C., we have the lowest crime numbers they've had in years. Zero, it sounds like it's a horrible thing to say, but I might as well say it. Zero murders in the last week since we've done this. That's the first time in memory that that's happened, if you can believe it, how pathetic that is to have to even say it. And I'm tired of listening to these people say how safe it was before we got here. It was unsafe. It was horrible. And Mayor Bowser better get her act straight or she won't be mayor very long, because we'll take it over with the federal government, run it like it's supposed to be run. The numbers were horrible. It was a crime-infested rat hole. And they do have a lot of rats. We're getting rid of them, too. And we've made a lot of progress. And it was extremely unsafe, and now it's extremely safe. We had virtually no crime. The number was down 87%, and I'm trying to figure out where was the 13%, because I don't think it existed. The National Guard has been unbelievable, and they're working with the police. And they have some very good people in there. They have some people that shouldn't be police, actually, but they have some great people there. And the Washington, D.C. is a whole different place. And Johnny, I'm sure you'll be happy to hear that too, actually.
Oh, yes.
But it's a whole different place. People are excited again. They're going out to restaurants again. That was the other thing I saw numbers, that restaurant business is down in the last week. No. Restaurant business, you can't get into a restaurant. Just really lying people. And that's why people don't understand how bad and how dishonest the press is. I saw one poll that had us at 19% favorable on what we're doing with Washington. Then I saw another one that has us 94% favorable. And I can tell you the 94% is correct. The others are fake, just fake news. They got to get their act together. So bad for our country, so sick, actually. So Washington, D.C. is really doing unbelievably well. And the Kennedy Center that we're fixing, I was just there all morning with contractors. We're making it unbelievable. It's going to be unbelievable. It's got great bones, but it needs a lot of work. The World Cup draw will set up the group stage of competition. 48 teams will play in 104 games across 16 North American cities, from Seattle to Vancouver to Atlanta to Miami.
That's cool.
It's going to be so exciting for our country. The 2026 FIFA World Cup will be one of the largest and most complex events. This will be one of the greatest events, one of the largest. In a way, it's like Johnny said it better. It's like having many Super Bowls in a short period of time. Because each one of these games essentially is a Super Bowl. Some of them are bigger than Super Bowls, actually. But they're essentially, each one of these games is like a Super Bowl. The 2026 FIFA World Cup will be the largest, most complex set of events in sports history. And the Kennedy Center will give it a phenomenal kickoff, and we'll be involved, and they'll be working over there for quite a bit of time. We have it all set that they can stay there for the big events, the big press conferences and everything else. And they'll be in a very safe capital. That'll be nice. You don't have to worry about walking down the street, Johnny, okay?
Thank you.
But you could handle yourself.
I could.
Okay. Already FIFA is projecting 6 million loyal fans will attend the World Cup events next year, and 6 billion more are going to be watching back home, and they think the $6 billion number is going to be actually a low number. And this will drive more than $30 billion into the U.S. economy and create 185,000 American jobs in a short period of time, too. No sporting event attracts more attention, more fans, more viewers, or more revenue than the FIFA World Cup. And again, I'll just say it's the World Cup, and it's the biggest thing there is in sports, and we have it. And I got it in my first administration, and I was really somewhat devastated, as devastated as I can be. I don't have time to get too devastated. I was very happy that today, as you saw, the group that does this, a government group, radical left group, announced that Trump was right. Took in $4 trillion worth of tariffs. That the $4 trillion are going to reduce the deficit by numbers far greater than they ever expected or heard of. And by the way, the stock market went up 1,000 points. That was as of 10 minutes ago. I can't tell you what happened. A lot of things happened. But the stock market's up almost 1,000 points. And it's basically on the news that the release that just came out from government that
CNN's still freaking out about the tweet.
Tariffs that everybody was talking about, that the whole world respects us for because of what we did. The tariffs are going to be at $4 trillion. They're going to reduce the deficit by $4 trillion, Mr. Vice President.
Pretty good, sir.
Too bad it's not 5, right?
That's right.
It's had a huge impact, and the stock market is way up. But this will drive more than $30 billion in U.S. economy and create 185,000 American jobs. No sporting event attracts more attention or more fans or anything else. And I just look forward to the draw. So we're going to have the draw, essentially, Johnny, at the Kennedy Center.
Yep.
And by that time, it'll be in even better shape. We're working on it. It's about a year project to make it. It'll be great. It'll be fantastic. You see the way this is looking? Look, nice. I can't tell you how much that gold costs. A lot of money. There's nothing like gold, and there's nothing like solid gold, but this beautiful office needed it. It had to be representative. When we took it over, it was dirty, not clean. I immediately changed the chair and had this beautiful desk renovated, brought out by the White House. People that do this, they did a great job to send it out. We have a craftsman who's great. But this was not appropriate for the Oval Office, what I took over. And now you look at all those paintings you're allowed to turn back. All of these are great presidents, and they were all in the vaults. They were in vaults for some cases much more than 100 years, and now they're proudly hanging on the Oval Office walls. And I can't imagine anybody changing it. But they were buried in vaults for over 100 years, many of them. So it's very exciting. People come in, they really love it. They love what we're doing here. They love what we're doing in D.C., and they love what we're doing, most importantly, in the country and the world. I'd like to ask Johnny to say a few words. He's the head of the whole thing. He's been there for a long time, probably the most respected man in sports. He's amazing, actually. Works very hard, and he's got the biggest event in the world coming right here to the United States. And we did a little for Canada. We did a little for Mexico. We thought, see, I'm a good citizen. I said, let them have a little piece. So we gave a little to Canada, see how nice I am, and we gave a little bit to Mexico. And Johnny, please say a few words.
Thank you, President.
All right, so that's the World Cup stuff that we'll keep our eye on. I want to see if they get to questions and if we get to hear the media come at the administration over Bolton or whatever. I expect them to take some questions, but we'll come back to that after this guy wraps up. Now, I also, as Trump was mentioning, I came across this tweet. This is from this guy called Seth Abramson. I think he's like a billionaire lefty lunatic, but he posted this. He says this was Obama's Oval Office versus Trump's Oval Office. And I think this is such a beautiful distinction between the two. Okay, one person takes pride over what they're working in. One person takes pride in their country, in our history, in our lineage. They want it to be awe-inspiring. They want world leaders to come into the Oval Office and go, oh my gosh, this is the most incredible thing I've ever seen, right? That's what Trump made it look like. He put attention to detail. We want our whole country to look like this. We want everything to be detailed and clean and beautiful and golden, symbolic for the golden age. Everybody's doing better. We're all fulfilled spiritually, health-wise, financially. That's what we want. We want our country to be resembling this. This is a symbolic expression. This was Obama's, okay? This was how he wanted the whole country to be. Drab, honestly disgusting. It looks dirty. It looks disgusting. Honestly, like those couches. They got a couch like that in college. Disgusting. So yeah, it's just really, I think, very indicative of what we want in the Oval Office. We want pride. We want excellence. And he's just saying this is just for the rich people. And I go, what are you talking about, man? I want all of our government to set this standard for all of us, right? If they're going to do something useful to improve society, why wouldn't we start with that? So here is, I thought that was kind of appropriate. Trump's, talks about how beautiful the Oval Office is, and it is beautiful. You can just look at the compare and contrast there on that. But the president is back. Let's check in.
Impact, 185,000 jobs. This will be absolutely fantastic. The biggest event ever, and everything will start here in Washington, D.C. at the Kennedy Center, or the Trump Kennedy Center. We'll see that how it will be called on the 5th of September at noon sharp. 5th of December, noon sharp. Then, if I may...
Will they be doing most of the draws, all of the draws at the Kennedy? Well, how are you going to do that?
Yes, we'll do that at the Kennedy Center. We'll do all the other meetings around it with the coaches, with the broadcasters, with the sponsors, everything at the Kennedy Center. The whole World Cup starts, and everyone will be happy because everyone has qualified for the World Cup, and they didn't yet play a game, so they didn't lose yet a game. So they all think they can become world champion, right?
They'll all be happy.
Exactly. Now,
by the way, an example, supposing we had a week ago when everybody was being killed and mugged and everything else, despite the phony numbers that were given out, that it was getting better. Brian, do you believe it was getting better or getting worse?
Oh, the crime is getting worse. I mean, I was robbed. It was getting way worse. Yeah.
How did the other guy come out?
He came out with a briefcase.
Came out with your
Robert 1, Brian 0.
No, but can you imagine you do this and then you start hearing that they had a 20-year reduction of crime. It's worse. It was worse during the Biden administration than anybody's ever imagined possible. And I guarantee you he wouldn't be here if those numbers continued. But now we have total safety. We have total security. And for the border, in 3 months, 0 people. These are done by liberal people that do these charts. 0 people came through our border in the last 90 days. Can you believe it? 0. Last year we had millions of people coming in. And they came in from the wrong locations. They came in from, they came in, a lot of people that shouldn't be here. So now when we have this event in December, it's going to be very safe. Johnny, you can walk down the street with your beautiful wife.
Yeah.
You can take her to dinner if you can get a reservation, which I doubt.
They're all full, the restaurants.
I know. They're all full. I heard that too. The restaurants aren't. The restaurants, since we are doing this, are doing great. And many new restaurants are going to open because, as you know, many closed. Many restaurants closed because the crime was so bad. This will be one of the safest places anywhere on earth. So, you know, I really am honored that the National Guard has done such an incredible job working with the police. And we haven't had to bring in the regular military, which we're willing to do. We have to. And after we do this, we'll go to another location and we'll make it safe also. We're going to make our country very safe. We're going to make our cities very, very safe. Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent. And we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this. And it won't even be tough. And the people in Chicago, Mr. Vice President, are screaming for us to come. They're wearing red hats, just like this one. But they're wearing red hats. African-American ladies, beautiful ladies, are saying, please, President Trump, come to Chicago. Please. I did great with the black vote, as you know, and they want something to happen. So I think Chicago will be our next, and then we'll help with New York, and we're going to help with. And I think a lot of these people that you see on television, they're including the people in this audience. They'll say bad things about me, and then they'll say, "Thank God he's here," because half of them got mugged, and they don't want to get mugged again. But they work for they work for stupid people that are radical left, and they're made to do things and say things that they don't want to be saying. But the people right here are all happy because you're not going to be mugged in Washington, D.C. anymore. I just want to say Johnny's been my friend for a long time. He's an incredible guy, and we will lay out the red carpet. Andrew, you're going to be fantastic. Rick is going to be everything Rick ever touched has always worked out, and he's working with me on the Kennedy Center. And his very good friend was an actor on Broadway for 5 years, right? And I assume he's helping us a little bit, right?
Yes.
And Andrew, you're all excited about it?
Absolutely.
Would you like to say something?
This is a great opportunity, Mr. President, to show off the first 250 years of the United States of America, the greatness, and then the hope and promise of the next 250 years. When you think this World Cup is going to be over our 250th birthday, Mr. President, your leadership, obviously, with FIFA leading the way, this is the largest sporting event in the history of the world under the Trump administration. So very excited. I just want to say one thing. Andrew Giuliani, so his father is Rudy, the greatest mayor in the history of New York, I think by far.
Rudy!
He took a ravaged city, a city that was really under siege. Probably most people thought it was going to survive. He turned it around. He was a great, great mayor. And then they treated him very, very unfairly. You go back and tell your father all of the things that have come out over the last couple of months through Tulsi and through all of the people, Cash, everybody. They've proven your father 100% correct. His father was treated so unfairly. Your father has been 100% correct. And tell him we all love him, okay?
Thank you, Mr. President.
It's been amazing. What he had to go through was very, very unfair. Nasty. These are bad people. Mr. Vice President, would you like to say something?
Well, sure, Mr. President. Thank you, and thanks to Johnny for being here. We're very thrilled about the World Cup. Just to echo something the President said about crime in Washington, D.C., this is the national capital of the greatest nation in the world, and we had murder rates just a few weeks ago that rivaled some of the worst third world cities anywhere, even in very, very poor regions of the world. Why did we accept that? Why did we allow it to happen? We allowed it to happen because we had broken leadership in Washington, D.C., and unfortunately sitting behind the Resolute desk. What we have shown in just under 2 weeks of taking law enforcement seriously is that the American people can have their streets back if their leadership is willing to put in the time
Just
and
like
the
we
resources.
could have our border
Mr.
back,
President,
like that.
You've shown in Washington, D.C. that we can have safe streets again. We've just got to have the political willpower to focus on the bad guys and to give the American people back their communities. We are focused on doing that thanks to the President's leadership.
Thank you. And that's a really very small percentage. It's 2%, 3%, but that 2% and 3% wreaks just havoc throughout a community. People are petrified, and I notice a couple of the women in the back are shaking their head, yes, yes, yes. I won't report who you are because you'll end up losing your jobs, but it's true. It's amazing, and the police, and you look at the D.C. National Guard. I saw pictures of them last night getting off vans and all. And I saw some bad ones running, but they're not running so much anymore. They're not there. They're just not even. They're not even trying. You're totally safe. Now there'll be something happening sometime. I don't know. Maybe it won't be for a long time. But this was every night would get reports of people being mugged and killed. There's one woman on television last night. She had a badly busted up nose, and she's well, I like our streets the way they used to be, and she thinks it's going to happen like by doing nothing. And they say, what happened to your nose? She got slugged by a guy walking down the street, slugged. Her nose will never be the same, I guarantee you, unless it takes a pretty good turn. She wasn't really for us. But she sort of said, well, maybe something has to happen. Before this happened to me, she got whacked. And I don't think she'll ever be the same. She almost became, she was a half a Trump fan, a woman that would have never been a Trump fan. But she was hit hard. It's not going to happen anymore. Not going to
Hopefully
happen
her
anymore.
nose comes
But then
back,
we're going to beautify the city too. That's where I was today at Kennedy Center, and we're going to beautify the city like it has it. And we're working with Clark Construction, the biggest construction company in Chicago, and in Chicago and New York and Washington. And the head of Clark is great. He's all over the world actually, but Washington, I would say, is their home. That's where they do the best work, the biggest work. And they're doing they've been doing a fantastic job.
Look at that Dow Jones,
you're gonna have
baby.
a fantastic, clean, beautiful place. It's going to be better than it ever was before. Literally better than it ever was before. We'll get it done very quickly. And I want to thank Clark because they're doing a lot of work in a lot of different locations, but they've been fantastic for getting us the right contractors and the people that can really do the job right. And Johnny, did you want to say something?
Yes, one more thing, because as you rightly say, you know, with security and beautifying cities and the whole country, we want people to come and enjoy and have fun. And that's why this is not just the most iconic trophy in the world of sport, but we start on the 10th of September the sale of tickets for the FIFA World Cup, and we have the first ticket here for the final. For you.
That's cool.
Wow. It's of course row 1, seat 1. It's ticket number 45, 47, and it's for the final in New York, New Jersey. And so you have your ticket already for the final. All the others, 10th of September. Start getting your tickets.
All right, get in line.
6.5, 7 million tickets. Fans will enjoy the security here. Will be fantastic.
You're going to do record business, I think.
100%.
Christy, would you like to say something?
Yeah, Mr. President, millions of people will come to this country, and we'll make sure they get their travel documents, their visas, that they want to come here and
Legally.
spend their money and enjoy the sporting event. It'll be the largest event in the world. And sir, you're reminding me of something that my dad used to say all the time when I was growing up. He would say, Christy, you kids need to look like you respect yourself before anybody's going to respect you. And in this country, when people look at our streets, when they look at our Capitol, you're bringing respect back to the
Oval
city.
Office.
And people will respect our country more because it's safe, it's clean, it's beautiful. And what you're doing is transforming this nation by making sure that our laws are upheld. And millions of people are going to come and be able to enjoy it next year, and I'm excited about that. Thank you for doing that.
Well, our country is respected again. And a year ago, we had a dead country. I'm telling you, it was a dead country. It was a country that had lost its way. It was a country that was going to fail. Look, even today, where they say $4 trillion in reductions of deficits, and this was totally unexpected. They didn't expect it. I mean, I don't know where they've been, the people that do this stuff, but it's terrible. I want to thank Christy for another reason. I said to her 2 weeks ago, I said, Christy, do me a favor. I built hundreds of miles of wall. I built the same wall that the Border Patrol asked me to build. It wasn't my first choice. I wanted to do concrete plank and everything nice, but you wouldn't have been able to see through it. So I had Border Patrol in, and they tested everything else. And we gave them steel wall, high-grade steel, very hard to cut. And we gave inside that is 9,000-pound concrete, which is a very tough concrete. Inside that is rebar, a big, fat piece of rebar. So you have all different materials that are very hard to cut, and you need different instruments to cut each one. And I said, Christy, we got to get a coat of paint on it. And I didn't know she was listening, but I said, we got to get a coat of paint, and it should be black, because black makes the steel very hot. It's untouchable. You could fry an egg on it. And if you got a good black, flat paint, it would look beautiful. It will preserve it from rust. And that was it. And I gave it to her along with 30 other things, and she's done such a good job on the border with Tom Homan and the group. Tom Homan's a fantastic guy, what the job he does and the way they work together.
Christy's delivering, for sure.
I turned on last night, and I see Christy's painting the wall. And it looked beautiful, by the way, when that paint went over there.
And it's hot.
It's hot.
Yes, it is.
It's hot. If it's white, it's not hot. If it's black, it's going to be very hard to climb that sucker. It's not going to be easy. But it's black and a high-quality black. You know, it really looked good.
Yeah, we got
Is
the
that going
paint
to be
you
a
told us
two-coat
to.
job or a one-coat?
No, just one coat.
One coat.
We used the paint you told me to buy.
Yep. The two-coat will take place in 3 years from now. We'll do the second coat. But it looks beautiful. But thank you very much. I didn't know you were listening to that, because we talked about 7 different subjects. And all of a sudden, I see her out there painting with a lot of painters and everything else. But it was a beautiful thing to say.
Yeah.
Would you like to say something? You've been such a big part of this. Please.
We're just, Mr. President, we're delighted to be here today for this announcement, but we're also looking forward to having you at the final.
Oh, yes.
On July 19th in New York, New Jersey.
We're going to be there. A lot of people are going to be there.
A lot of people.
I'd like to thank you all. Do you have any questions on FIFA, first of all?
It's going to be a big event at the Kennedy Center. Do you intend to take part in it? Will you have a part to play on December 5th?
I may play. I mean, I see the money that these soccer players, we call it soccer, but I see the money that these soccer players are making. I may try and play. I'm a very good athlete. My son is a very good athlete. And he's
Trump
a good
and
soccer
Barron
player.
out there?
He's on the tall side for soccer. Yeah. He's 6'9". That's pretty tall. But
that's pretty tall.
It's on the tall side.
Yeah,
It's on the tall side, but he's good. But no, I may put on shorts. I look extremely good in shorts and join the play. No, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be great.
Many foreigners who want to come to attend the event are concerned about the visa situation. Can you reassure them?
Yeah, they're going to have a very easy time getting in. Certain countries are going to be very, very easy, and other countries are going to be obviously a little bit more difficult. Would you like to explain that, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a process set up that we'll be implementing on getting visas approved. Everybody will be thoroughly vetted, but they'll be welcome to this country. It'll happen quickly, and we're excited for them to come. So I would hope that around the world people know that the United States is excited to bring their family here to enjoy this event.
America welcomes the world.
Yes.
And I can really, from the collaboration that we have, testify for that. Absolutely. Thank you.
And I was just sent a picture from somebody that wants to be there very badly. He's been very respectful of me and of our country, but not so respectful of others. But I'm going to sign this for him, but I was sent one, and I thought you'd all like to see it. That's a man named Vladimir Putin,
oh,
who I believe will be coming, depending on what happens. He may be coming and he may not, depending on what happens. We have a lot of things happening over the next couple of weeks. But I thought it was a nice picture of him. Okay of me, but nice of him. So that was very nice that it was sent to me. Okay?
Mr. President, on
yes.
that subject, have you talked to Vladimir Putin about the fact that yesterday a big U.S. factory was hit in a Russian airstrike in Ukraine? What's your reaction to that?
I told him I'm not happy about it. And I'm not happy about anything having to do with that war. I settled 7 wars, and actually, if you think about pre-wars, add 3 more, so it would be 10. I thought this would be in the middle of the pack in terms of difficulty. No, I'm not happy about anything about that war. Nothing. Not happy at all. We'll see what happens. I think over the next 2 weeks, we're going to find out which way it's going to go. And I better be very happy.
Mr. President, I had a very good call with Prime Minister Carney of Canada yesterday morning.
Yes.
Actually, Canada is taking away some retaliatory tariffs.
He's removing his tariffs, yeah.
Exactly.
He's removing his retaliatory tariffs, which I thought was nice. And we're going to have another call soon. Okay. Yeah, we had a very good call.
You're getting closer towards an agreement on trade?
I like him. You know, look, I'm fighting for the United States. Canada and Mexico have taken a lot of our business over the years, over 25, 30 years. Especially during the Biden years. They took a lot of our business, and it's basically all coming back into the United States now. Well, hot as a pistol, and it's coming back in. Because of tariffs and the incentives we give, it's coming back. And it's impossible, I think, for another country to stop it. And we are working on something. We want to be very good to Canada. I like Carney a lot. I think he's a good person. And we had a very good talk yesterday, so I think it'll be good.
Mr. President, I have a question about the search of Ambassador Bolton's home. The Vice President recently just did an interview saying that it's about classified documents, but that there's also broad concern about him. What are the concerns?
Well, I haven't spoken to Pam in the group yet, but I will be. I saw that just like everybody else. I try and stay out of that stuff. I'm allowed to be, and I'm chief law enforcement officer, believe it or not. You know, I don't like to go around saying that, but I am. That's the position. But I purposely don't want to really get involved in it. I'm not a fan of John Bolton. I thought he was a sleazebag, actually. And he suffers major Trump derangement syndrome, but so do a lot of people, and they're not being affected by anything we do.
All the cables
I don't know anything about it. I just saw that. I'll find out about it. But if you believe the news, which I do, I guess his house was raided today, but my house was raided also, called Mar-a-Lago. They went through everything they could, including my young son's room and my wife's area. They went through her drawers, as the expression goes. They went through everything you can imagine. And when she came back, she said, she's very neat, you know, she's meticulous. And she looked and she said, "Whoa, this wasn't the way that she had it."
They went through her drawers.
So I know the feeling. It's not a good feeling. Thank you.
Mr. President, how long will you give Putin?
A couple of weeks. We're going to figure it out. We'll find it.
Do you think you'll have to intervene at some point?
Look, it takes 2 to tango. You understand that. I wanted to have a meeting with those 2. I could have been at the meeting, but a lot of people think that nothing's going to come out of that meeting. You have to be there. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. But we're going to see. In the meantime, people continue to die. But I've solved 7 of them where they were in wars for 31, 35, and 37 years. We had 3 of them that were for more than 30 years, Johnny, and I got them solved. And we solved one that could have been a nuclear war with India and Pakistan. That was getting ready to be a nuclear war. I solved them all. And this one, I thought we would have had it done by now, but it's more different. There's a lot of anger, a lot of hatred. There's a tremendous amount of hatred there. So, but we'll see what happens. I think in 2 weeks we'll know which way I'm going. Because I'm going to go one way or the other. And they'll learn which way I'm going.
Mr. President, if I got 2 questions for you. One on FIFA, the other one on DC. Can you talk about the economic impact that FIFA will have in these cities, and what's your message to the mayors to get their cities prepared, not only the beautification process, but also the safety aspect?
Well, Los Angeles is an example. You know, it's poorly run. We have a mayor there that can't even get permits to the people that lost their houses.
Worried about redistricting
every
illegally.
permit. The hardest permit is the federal permit. Within 20 days, every single permit was there for the people to build their houses. But people are writing us and they're saying they won't give us. The mayor is incompetent. The governor's incompetent. You know, Gavin. I know Gavin very well. He's an incompetent guy with a good line of bullshit, and he doesn't get the job done.
It's true.
And frankly, those people want to build their houses. It's terrible. They could have been built. Some of them could have been built already. But think of it: the federal government that has the most complex part, and it's the most complex environmental thing to do. We got it. Everybody had it within 30 days. And they're not even close to getting their permits. And now they're talking about taking some of those sites and building low-income housing on them. These are high-end neighborhoods. And I'm all for low-income housing. I built a lot of low-income housing. I know all about 236. I know every program that there is in the government. I used every one of them. I know more about low-income housing than probably almost anybody. And it's great. It's fine. It's wonderful. But you don't build it in Pacific Palisades. You don't build it there, and you don't build it in the other areas that burn down. So they're talking about putting up low-income housing. And you talk about riots. They're going to have riots if that happens because you're taking the people's property away. They want to build their houses, and they're unable to get permits from the mayor and from the governor. And that's a terrible thing. But and let me tell you, if I didn't send in the troops in Los Angeles, Johnny wouldn't be in Los Angeles. You wouldn't be having your World Cup there. I sent in the troops and we kept it. And even the police commissioner, the sheriff and the police commissioner, they all said the same thing. They said, we could have never handled what was happening. You saw that, you were there. He said, we could have never handled what was happening. And then you hear Gavin Newsom, after it's all quelled, you hear Newsom get up and said, we could have done this by ourselves. No, they couldn't have. And if they could have, I wouldn't have taken the chance either.
Okay, my second question is on crime prevention. Would you be open to expanding the national concealed carry to apply to D.C. like it does in other states like Texas?
Yeah. Well, they have it in some states and they feel strongly about it. As you know, I'm in favor of it. People have to protect themselves. I'm a Second Amendment person, very simply. People have to be able to protect themselves. Especially like in Washington, you walk down the street, a guy comes up and slugs you. He's got a pistol in his hand. You can be tough, you can be in great shape, you can be a powerful person, or you can be a guy that weighs 100 pounds with a gun in your hand. Right. And I'll bet on the guy with a gun 100% of the time, right? And so you need protection. So I'm a Second Amendment person all the way. Yeah, please.
President Trump, you said this morning that you're working with Congress to get $2 billion to help clean up D.C. Have you had any conversations with Mike Johnson and John Thune about where they're going to get that money from?
Which money?
You said this morning that you're going to get $2 billion from Congress to help clean up D.C.
I've spoken to Mike Johnson. I've spoken to John Thune, the Senate, the House, and I think it's going to be very easy to get. It's going to be not a lot of money. I wouldn't even know where to spend the number that you mentioned, but it's going to be money to beautify the city. Yeah, they're ready. Everybody wants to save D.C. In one way, it's the easiest. The violence was more than any other city in the country, actually, by far. It may have been more than any other city in the world, if you could think. We looked at some of the worst cities in the world. It was worse. And that's why it angers me to see the mayor saying about how they have it on the slide. Not on the slide. It was worse than ever. We have no problem getting that money. That money will come out of Congress. I think it'll be even bipartisan.
That is the plan.
I would imagine Democrats would vote for that one.
Is the plan to get it before the September 30 spending deadline on the Hill?
Well, I don't know if there is a deadline, because if I declare a national emergency, which this was, that ends the deadline. So, I keep seeing about a 30-day deadline, of which we have 22 days left or something. But if I think we're in great shape here, that's one thing. But if I don't, I'm going to just say it's a national emergency. And if I have a national emergency, I can keep the troops there as long as I want. If people are not going to want to have the troops on. And 30 days, it's one thing to get them out. It's another thing to keep them out for a long period of time. You've got to train people. You can't do this. You can't bop people over the head. And a lot of those people are in courts right now, going to court. They're going to go to jail for a long time. So that's going to take more than 30 days. But if I have to, I'll declare a national emergency, which I don't think I'll have to do. Yeah.
Mr. President, can I ask you about a question? You said in 2 weeks you'll know whether you go.
Yeah, I think I'll know the attitude of Russia and, frankly, of Ukraine. It takes two.
What are the 2 ways you can go at the end of 2 weeks then?
Well, then I'm going to make a decision as to what we do. And it's going to be a very important decision. And that's whether or not it's massive sanctions or massive tariffs or both. Or do we do nothing and say it's your fight? Look, I would have never been in this war if I were president. You wouldn't have had this war. It was never going to happen. This was caused by stupid people that fought. And you know, people say, well, how do we know? Because for 4 years, it was never even a subject. And Vladimir knew, and you see his picture right here. It was nice that he sent, but Vladimir knew very strongly we wouldn't have stood for it. It wouldn't have happened. 100% wouldn't have happened, but it did happen. And now they're losing from 5 to 7 young kids. Think of it, you're a parent and your son is leaving. He's Russian or he's Ukrainian. And he's leaving and they're waving goodbye. Nice, beautiful kid. Nice crew cut, all set. He wants to be a soldier. And goes there first week, he has his head blown off. And he's no different than you people, me. And it doesn't matter where. I mean, I solved a problem in the Congo that was vicious. Rwanda and the Congo, the Republic of the Congo. And they were fighting for 31 years, and it was machetes. People were getting their heads chopped off. That was going on for 31 years. I got it solved. You saw it. They came to the White House and we signed an agreement. It was amazing. People can't believe we got it done. I love to stop killing. I really do. That would be nice. People thought it would be just the opposite. Hillary Clinton said, oh, he'll get us into a war. No, I'm getting everybody else out of wars.
Are you saying there's a real possibility then that you do nothing if Putin doesn't come to the table for a ceasefire?
I'll see whose fault it is. If there are reasons why, I'll understand that. I know exactly what I'm doing. We're going to see whether or not they have a meeting. That'll be interesting to see. And if they don't, why didn't they have a meeting? Because I told them to have a meeting. But I'll know in 2 weeks what I'm going to do. I have pretty good ideas.
Your Justice Department is also sending some of the Epstein files over to the House Oversight Committee today. Are you in support of them releasing all of them?
Keeping it open.
If they wanted to release,
people shouldn't be hurt, but I'm in support of keeping it totally open. I couldn't care less. You got a lot of people that it could be mentioned in those files that don't deserve to be. People, because he knew everybody in Palm Beach. I don't know anything about that, but I have said to Pam and everybody else, give them everything you can give them, because it's a Democrat hoax. It's just a hoax. The whole Epstein thing is a Democrat hoax. So we had the greatest 6 months, 7 months in the history of the presidency, and the Democrats don't know what to do, so they keep bringing up that stuff. But it affected them. Bill Clinton was on his plane and went to the island supposedly 28 times.
Yeah, got massages too.
Frankly, you have Larry, whatever his name is, Summers, the head of Harvard, who was Jeffrey Epstein's best friend. Nobody ever talks about that. I mean, but I don't want to hurt Larry Summers, but he was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein. No, this is a Democratic hoax to try and get the significance of what we've done over the past 7 months. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. They say it's #1 in history.
There is some truth.
What we've done, including stopping
Democrats
7
are turning
wars.
it into something it isn't.
Include that. And now you look at the stock market today. It's way up to start off with from where I took it. And this market was going to crash. If Joe Biden or Kamala were president, this market we would have had a crash like in 1929. You're not going to have that. It's only a question of how high is it going to go. You know, I had the strongest economy in the history of our country. And despite COVID, we had the strongest economy in the history of our country. And we're going to blow it away this time. I was always good at making a lot of money. And whether it was for myself or whether it was, I like doing it this way better. I mean, I like making it for the country. Our country's been ripped off by friend and foe, nations all over the world ripped off. And the friends have been much worse than the foes for the most part. And they're not ripping us off. We just signed a deal with the European Union. They're paying us essentially $950 billion, like a signing fee. They're going to buy $750 billion worth of energy. They weren't buying much of our energy there. And they're very smart in doing it. And as you know, Ursula was here a couple of days ago having to do with the people, the leaders that we had a great, people said they've never seen anything like it. Well, we had the leaders of Europe right here in the Oval Office. And she's so happy that she has an agreement. But people aren't ripping us anymore. We're run by, this country is run by smart people now.
Mr. President, in Israel... Two questions. One is about Intel. There have been reports that you're considering taking a stake in Intel. Can you tell us
About the
that?
10%?
About the 10%.
Yeah, I met a man. He was a very nice man, and I called for his removal because I saw something by a man named Tom Cotton, a senator from Arkansas. He's a great guy, friend of mine, supporter of mine, big supporter. I'm a supporter of his too. And he wrote a pretty nasty story about the head of Intel. And I said, well, if that's right, he should resign. And he came in, he saw me, we talked for a while. I liked him a lot. I thought he was very good. I thought he was somewhat a victim, but, you know, nobody's a total victim, I guess. And I said, you know what? I think the United States should be given 10% of Intel. And he said, I would consider that. I said, well, I'd like you to do that because Intel has been left behind, as you know, compared to Jensen and some of our friends, NVIDIA, some of the people, and the people in, because Intel should have never been. Intel was the biggest, most powerful chip company in the world. And then they started leaving. And they started going to foreign countries, in particular Taiwan. And if we had a president that would have said, okay, you can go to Taiwan, but we're going to put a 100% tariff or a 200 or 300 or a 500% tariff, anybody that sells into the United States has to pay. They wouldn't have left. They would have never left, and we wouldn't have. So in the meantime, we had people that were, in some cases, good politicians that weren't good on trade. I loved that man, but he was not good on trade. I totally disagreed. He allowed the car industry to be taken out of this country. We lost 50% of our car industry. But that's all coming back. It's all coming back. But if somebody would have said that with Intel, would be a giant right now. Now, with that, they've had some bad management over the years, and they got lost. And I said, I think you should pay us 10% of your company. And they said, yes. That's about $10 billion. I don't get it. This comes to the United States of America. And I said, I think it would be good having the United States as your partner. He agreed. And they've agreed to do it. And I think it's a great deal for them. And I think it's a great deal. He walked in wanting to keep his job, and he ended up giving us $10 billion for the United States. So we picked up $10 billion. And we do a lot of deals like that. I'll do more of them. If somebody has, like we have restrictive covenants with Jensen. We have, it's NVIDIA. And to unrestrict the covenant, had nothing to do with losing our powers or military or anything, because that I wouldn't do. But there are things you can do that don't affect us, that actually help us. And if we're going to give somebody a restricted covenant, we have a strong restrictive covenant on certain industries. And I will absolutely give somebody a opening on a restrict to do a lot of business, which is good for us, as long as it doesn't hurt us in a security or military way. And if I do that, I think the country should be paid, because anybody else, I have it in real estate where I'll have a deal with somebody and I'll have them restrictive covenant. Then they'll come back and they'll say, I'd love to be able to build over here, but I'm not allowed to because you have me covered, you have me restricted. I say, I'll let you build over there, but pay me a lot of money. No different. But the country never did it because the country was run by foolish people.
Mr. President, you said Chicago might be next. Are you making, have there been concrete steps that the administration is taking to do that? Or what are other cities as well?
I haven't spoken to them. He's grossly incompetent. I haven't spoken to the man. No, when we're ready, we'll go in and we'll straighten out Chicago, just like we did D.C. Chicago is very dangerous, great place. I built great stuff there. I have the most beautiful building in Chicago, I think. But I hate to see what's happened to Chicago. Chicago was our greatest city, actually. Bob Tisch, a great friend of mine, passed away. He used to own the Giants and very successful Lowe's. He said Chicago, I think they had their main office in Chicago. He said Chicago and San Francisco, the two greatest cities in the world. Now you look at what the Democrats have done to San Francisco. They've destroyed it. I own a big chunk of the Bank of America building in San Francisco. And, you know, it's just different. We can clean that up, too. We'll clean that one up, too. Now, if everything works out, and we've already had calls from other cities, quiet calls from Democrats, we'd love you to come here, because they've lost control of their cities. I'm not going to say, because I don't want them to lose their elections. But we've had calls from Democrats and calls from people generally. We'd love you to come here,
because we'll straighten out the problem.
In Israel, the families of hostages the families of hostages are opposed to the reoccupying of Gaza. Why is the U.S. still?
Well, not all of them, and you have to understand, I'm the one that got all of the hostages out. You got a lot of people out. If it wasn't for me, they wouldn't be out. I worked with Bibi and I worked with Steve Witkoff. But if it wasn't for me, you would have all these hostages would most likely be dead right now, every one of them. So they all come up here. They all come in groups of 10, 12, 13, and many of them, and I've gotten to know a lot of them. They're great people. What they had to go through is incredible. But so now they have 20, but the 20 is actually probably not 20 because a couple maybe aren't around any longer. It's a terrible thing. No, I don't like anymore. I said, you know, when you get down to 20, they're not going to make deals anymore. And they didn't. And then I put out a statement, as you know, that was a tough statement, go in and get them. And they said, we'll give you 10, we'll give you 10. I don't know what Israel's doing, but they were willing now immediately to give us another 10. The situation has to end. It's extortion and it has to end. And we'll see what happens. I actually think they're safer in many ways if you went in and you really went in fast and you did it. And people can't forget October 7th, remember that. I'm friendly with all groups. I won the Arab vote in Michigan. I did so great with the Arab vote, remember? I started off at 0, I ended up winning. I wouldn't say the candidate was the greatest, but I would have won against anybody. They're great people. But we have to do things properly. And you know, I'm very proud to say I got the hostages out. You have hundreds of people that are living now because of me. And now we have that final little group of people. And Hamas knows that if they give them, that's probably the end of their lives. So it's not easy to get. And I know if you're a parent, you just don't care. You want, I want my baby back. They want their babies back. They want their kids back. And I understand it. But I got them out and did a good job. And we're doing everything we can to get the hostages out. Thank you all very much. Yes?
So Jackson Hole, Jay Powell today said, he suggested that they might cut interest rates, but they never proceeded.
Well, we call him too late for a reason. He should have cut him a year ago. He's too late. You know, we have a stock market that's up 1,000 points today. I better be careful because I go out there and I'll see it's down 1,000, right? But it's up 1,000 points when I came in here. We have a country that the market's the hottest it's ever been. The country's better than it's ever been. We have a military that I rebuilt largely in my first term. We had a great, successful first term, but this is going to be even better. But we rebuilt it. We gave a lot of it away to Afghanistan, but relatively small compared to the overall. But I think it was the most embarrassing day and period in the history of our country that they allowed those 13 wonderful people, but it's really hundreds of people were killed. And they don't talk about the 48 that was so severely wounded with no legs, no arms, nobody ever mentions them except me. But that was the worst day, the most, it just showed how incompetent. Frankly, if that didn't happen, I really believe that you might not have had the problem with Russia. I think Putin was sitting there watching these stupid people running our country and said, this is a time to invade. It's, you know, this is a time. And then Biden made the statement, well, he can do a small incursion. When he said that, it was off to the races, right? When he said he can do a small incursion, remember that? I was surprised he knew the word incursion. I didn't think he had that good of a vocabulary.
It's a big one for him.
I want to thank everybody. It's very important to me and to everybody up here, the World Cup. And Johnny has been so incredible. I mean, he's really a great leader. I mean, to think, I said, Johnny, do it by phone. You don't have to come. No, he said, I'll come. And he flew all night long to be here and listen to this about how great we're doing in D.C. But he's a fantastic leader, and this will be your most successful World Cup ever. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Can we win it, Mr. President?
I don't know. I watch some of those teams go around. They go down that field. I don't know. But let me ask you, what chance does America have of winning?
Well, the home team always has a good chance to win. It depends how it starts. No, but it has some good players. Of course. Of course, you have a chance.
Will Bear be going to any of the games, Mr. President?
I'd love to have him. He'd love to. He's very tall. Maybe we can make him a goalie. The goalies are very tall now, right?
The goalies are very tall.
The goalies, well, he'd be a perfect goalie.
100%.
At his height, he'll be a great goalie.
Exactly.
So we'll put him on the American team. No, but do the Americans have a chance of, like, getting into the quarterfinals?
Yes,
right?
definitely. No, the quarterfinal definitely, but then, you know, as the tournament goes on with the public 250 years of United States, let's not forget, they will all feel energized about that.
You know, it's amazing. The talent is really great when you watch these things. I went to the game 2 weeks ago, and it was a big upset. But you look at these people; the way they pass it. It's amazing, really amazing. It's a great art, right? It's a great talent.
It is incredible.
You know the expression. This what?
Will you draw the names?
I don't know. He's the boss.
That's an interesting proposal.
He's the boss.
We'll discuss that.
It's going to be great. And I think the American team is going to do well. I mean, I hear it's a very good team. Good luck, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Let's move along. Thank you, guys.
Keep a lot of those photos.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
No, I just got one.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. We're done.
All right, so they're shooing him on out of the room. Nice to hear from the president today. And the World Cup's great. That is good. We don't talk a lot of sports here. You know, don't have a lot of interest in that. But they, of course, you know, the World Cup is a huge thing, right? I mean, it's gigantic. And so the fact that it's coming here and we're going to have 16 different states celebrating America's Big 250 is pretty cool. And so nice to see that. Now, we also got some good questions on some of the other stuff that we talk about here. Got a little Epstein question stuff. And of course, looks like a bunch of docs will be transferred over to Congress today. We got to hear about that. Of course, Trump has already commented today on the John Bolton stuff. And so what we heard from him today on that was much the same that we heard this morning. He hadn't talked to Pam Bondi or been briefed on it. And we got some other things. We got some, Israel-Gaza stuff and kind of the smorgasbord of materials. But ultimately, the big news was the World Cup coming to the United States. And that is all good stuff. So with that now accomplished, let's get back into the Supreme Court's filing. And so, returning, we are back in a Supreme Court decision in Amy Coney Barrett's concurring decision. And to refresh our recollection, she's bifurcating the claims into two separate claims. One is appropriately brought in a lower level district court. The other is about a grant termination. That should be brought over here. So she's splitting it right now. She says, this is not even a big deal, all right? If you've got two separate claims, you file in two different locations and you resolve them. Now, it's true that they cannot necessarily sue the government in two forums simultaneously because there's some overlap here, but there's other guidance. And we don't even know that this is a final agency action yet. The government did not press this argument or any others, but its application largely ignores the guidance. And so the government has therefore failed to show that it's entitled to a stay of judgments insofar as they vacate the guidance. All right. Of course, it remains free to challenge the district court's vacature of the guidance before the First Circuit, and they can do that too, right? So Trump's guidance is basically stayed according to Amy Coney Barrett, but the terminations are valid because they sued in the wrong location. Okay, so like $700 million or whatever the total number is can be properly disposed of because those can be terminated. They filed in the wrong place. So the stay is applied to those terminations is invalid. But the future cancellations are stayed and they're appealed. And Trump can appeal all of that in the First Circuit. So thank you, Amy Coney Barrett, for that. Now, here is the decision from Roberts, Chief Justice Roberts, trying to figure out why he went this way. He says, in my view, the district court's vacature of the challenged directives distinguishes this case from our prior precedent. This relief, which has prospective and generally applicable, implications, falls within the scope of our jurisdiction at the low court. And if the district court had jurisdiction to vacate the directives, then it could also get the terminations, right? They're one and the same. The government has neither contended the terminations did not result from the directives, nor contested the conclusion that they were final agency action. And so, in these circumstances, it's one case, it's not two cases, and Roberts says they were not required to split the case into two parts. Okay, so very short distinction here from Roberts, but Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson are joining him, saying, really, the government didn't do a good job at challenging this separation between the two, and the district court is not required to do it. And so they could resolve both things, and that's it from Roberts. So that's essentially what we see from Roberts plus the 3 libs. Then we get Judge Gorsuch. Now, Gorsuch is unhappy with the lower level courts, and he rips them here appropriately. Kavanaugh joins in on Gorsuch, and Gorsuch is the man. Lower court judges may sometimes disagree with this court's decisions, but they are never free to defy them. And we know who he's talking about right here. Department of Ed versus California and these other cases like Judge Boasberg. Now, in the Department of Education case, this court granted a stay because it found the government was going to win in showing that the district court did not have jurisdiction to force the government to pay money. California, in that case, right, the Supreme Court case, explained that suits based on any express or implied contract with the United States are not APA claims. You can't just sue because you're mad. You have to go to the Court of Federal Claims. There's something called the Tucker Act, and you have to sue there. Rather than follow that direction, the district court in this case permitted a suit involving a materially identical grant to proceed to final judgment under the APA. Gorsuch is saying, we've already dealt with this. We've already had cases that are very similar. People are mad they lost their money. We said, sue in the Court of Federal Claims. You're not doing it, says Gorsuch. And you might disagree, but you cannot defy us. Now, as support for its course, says Gorsuch, this lower level judge invoked what he says is persuasive authority. And persuasive authority, which he's calling the dissent in California, which are in the dissent. It is not persuasive, okay? So there's this distinction in the law between persuasive authority and binding authority. So if you're in, for example, Arizona, and you've got the lower level district court here, then you have the Court of Appeals here in Arizona, and then you have the Supreme Court here, right? You would say, well, if the Supreme Court, and you got, separate different courts of appeals, and you got a bunch of different district courts, right? Like a bunch of them, not at our federal level. This is really for illustrative purposes. We call them really county courts, and you get the point. But anyways, it's this hierarchical structure, right? So when the Supreme Court says something, it's binding on the Court of Appeals, which is binding on all of the district courts because they're all within the same jurisdiction. But there's this other concept called persuasive authority. So let's say this is in Arizona, but let's say our friends in Texas over here have something similar happening. And so in Texas, they have, the same structure, their high court, their middle courts, and their lower courts. And let's say their Supreme Court issues a ruling that is related to the case or to the issues in Arizona, but it's a separate state. So it is persuasive because Arizona can say, well, Texas is doing things over here. And since they're smart in Texas, they thought this through. And so we can use their case law in our case law. But it's good law over there, okay? It's like the majority. It's in practice. It's what they've decided. Their Supreme Court said it, or their Court of Appeals said it, or their circuit court said it, right? Whatever. And it can be persuasive, but it's not binding. And so what this judge did, okay, is call persuasive, or their Court of Appeals said it, or their circuit court said it, right? Whatever. And it can be persuasive, but it's not binding. And so what this, I think, good evidence now from the Supreme Court that are so thus far mostly useless congressional representatives could use in impeachment proceedings against these judges, okay? This was wrong. That was error. You're doing a bad thing. And we want respect. We command respect. And you need to follow our orders. And you're a federal judge, and you should know better than this, or get out of your office. Of course, decisions regarding interim relief are not necessarily conclusive, and it's still ongoing. But regardless of your procedural posture, no matter what you want to call this, an interim proceeding or whatever, our reasoning carries precedential weight in future cases. You can't just ignore it. And it's binding just as well as the rationale and the reasoning underlying it. In California, the Supreme Court case was clear. Our reasoning was very clear. There, we explained that the APA's limited waiver of immunity does not extend to contracts and money claims. Instead, you have to go to the CFC, Court of Federal Claims. You're mad that you lost your government money? Go sue over there. The Tucker Act was created. There's all these laws that say this is the appropriate forum to do it, so go do it. But they'll lose over there. They don't want to go over there, so they want to go to their rigged judges, and the judges can issue nationwide injunctions and ignore the Supreme Court. Where is Congress on this? This is a judicial insurrection. That reasoning binds lower courts as a matter of vertical stare decisis, which is literally what I just was describing here. Okay, it's vertically integrated. It's not persuasive. A dissent is in the losing decision. It's not persuasive because you like their decision better. Now, moreover, it's malpractice to cite the dissent. It's wrong. He's calling it out. Moreover, even probabilistic holdings like California's top line conclusion that the government is likely to succeed must inform the government how to proceed. And so if nothing else, the promise of our legal system is that like cases are treated alike. Yeah, right. Tell that to President Trump or the January 6ers, okay, who got abused by the prosecution that is supposed to adhere to this, but they don't do that at all. Hillary Clinton got about $100,000 fine for her financial fraud, which was creating the Steele dossier, paying for that, calling it a legal expense. She got a fine from the FEC. They charged Trump with 34 felonies for paying his actual lawyer legal expenses, not creating a fake Steele dossier or anything like that. So they're not treated the same, okay? If you are on one side of the political aisle, until recently, you have been the subject of government-endorsed and sanctioned abuse officially. And you were scolded if you didn't comply about you're killing somebody, you're a bigot, or you hate some segment of society. So here, this is persuasive authority, right? This is like, how dare you? That a lower court ought not to invoke persuasive authority of a dissent or a repudiated court of appeals decision that reaches the different conclusion that you prefer. Now, to be sure, beyond expressing mere disagreement with California, the Supreme Court case, the district court also sought to distinguish it to justify his crap decision. But that effort failed too. This case, the district court said, is a little bit different because the only claim is about discretionary grants. He says, no, the same is true here. That's not distinguished. The only injury the district court sought to remedy is money. And so money is what California talked about. And perhaps sensing the problems with the district court's approach, the Court of Appeals tried to help out like a bunch of other hacks. They tried to distinguish California again in two other ways. It's about money damages. You want your money, and the guidance says you're not getting it. That's the remedy. It's the only thing the court can really do. They can prohibit the guidance, but the law says you got to go file your money claim somewhere else. So they know that. They're going to go lose their money claims because the government has discretion to cancel those. And so they just make it up as they go. Even the Court of Appeals. First, the Court of Appeals said the lower court actually didn't invoke the APA, talking about money damages, but only invoked the APA to vacate the decision about the grants. Now, this court's precedents, however, cannot be so easily circumvented, you cheaters. An order vacating the government's decision to terminate grants under the APA is in every meaningful sense, an order. It requires the government to pay. That's it. You can call it whatever you want. You can change the label. You can go in different, whatever you want. But the remedy, money. That's it. Even the district court knows this, instructing the government that its vacation of the grant terminations means pay them, give them their money. Second, the Court of Appeals said, well, unlike California, here it doesn't depend on the terms and conditions. But that is also incorrect, writes Gorsuch. In both cases, the injury and the alleged right to payment are coming from the refusal to pay. Same thing in all the cases. So our precedent holds. For these reasons, I concur in the court's decision to stay the district court's judgments, vacating the grant terminations. If the district court's failure to abide by California were a one-off, like if this was just one lunatic judge who was just acting a fool, perhaps it would not even be worth writing to address this if this was an aberration on one bad judge. But it's not. Gorsuch says, but 2 months ago, another district court tried to compel compliance with a different order of this court that we had stayed. In the DVD case, this is Boasberg, right? Boasberg says, well, I'm going to hold you in contempt. Your injunction was illegal. So you don't get to enforce your illegal injunction with illegitimate contempt powers. Still, another district court recently diverged from one of this court's decisions, even though this case in hand did not differ in any pertinent respect from the other one we have decided. So Gorsuch says, this is now the third time in a matter of weeks this Supreme Court has had to intercede in a case squarely controlled by our precedents. All these interventions should have been unnecessary, but together they underscore a basic tenet of our judicial system. Whatever their own views, judges like Boasberg and Zenas and the rest of them are duty-bound to respect the hierarchy of the federal court system created by our Constitution and the Congress. 100% right. And they're just trying to pervert the Constitution and the Congress because they are upset about the outcomes that they're going to get. We don't like what you're going to do. So they have to go to Maryland. They got to go to D.C. Here he shreds Jackson. He says, Justin Jackson in her whiny dissent, she suggests that individuals enjoy a free-floating right under the APA. But she's wrong too. To sue under the APA, it's not a free-floating right, says Gorsuch. What are you talking about, crazy? To sue, a litigant must suffer legal wrong because of agency action. It says that right there, 5 U.S. Code 702. It's not a free-floating right. Where'd you get that? And here, the alleged legal wrong is money, a point that the dissent elsewhere even acknowledges. Now, I would have stayed the remainder of the judgment, which vacated any internal agency guidance as well. The only injury that gave them standing to sue was the money. They should have sued in the right location, and they didn't. And so they should lose more thoroughly than even Amy Coney Barrett says. So Kavanaugh came out, and he said, like Gorsuch, Alito, and Thomas, I would grant the stay in full, right? So similar to Gorsuch, your money claims should be brought over there, and the guidance claims are about the money. Okay, so bring them over there. He says, first, the grant of terminations are in the Court of Federal Claims. Okay, easy, similar to Gorsuch. Second, I also agree with the government that the grant termination guidance is also unavailing. For instance, he says, it's not evidence that their challenges are separable. But even if they were separable, they're still going to lose on that claim, right? So here, Kavanaugh, which is a good point, he's saying, look, even if we validate that claim, you're still going to lose. Like the guidance is valid, right? So you have to show why the guidance isn't valid. He says, Jackson seems to suggest that we can avoid this forum channeling decision by just denying the application and like all this will be fixed. He says, that's ridiculous. We can't deny it. We have to decide this. Denying the application would mean that the suit belongs for now in the First Circuit. And it would mean that another suit belongs in the Court of Federal Claims. And so we got to decide this. And so for these reasons, Kavanaugh says, I would sign on with dismissing in full. Let's hit a little bit of Jackson and see what she had to say. And she has a bad attitude a lot of days. Let's see how she turned out this morning. She says, okay, concurring in part and dissenting in part, right? Because part of the stay has been granted in favor of Trump so that he can cancel the contracts, but the guidance is still stayed, right? The guidance from going into effect is still stayed. So Trump cannot continue forward with this. It can still happen, but it's just got to work its way through the Court of Appeals. In other words, SCOTUS is not settling that now. So Jackson, she writes, Ketanji on the left says, this past spring, as March turned to April, as March turned to April, thank you for explaining the progression of the months. The court took a mere 9 days to address a difficult and nuanced legal issue, saying whether Trump can fire people. I viewed the court's intervention in an emergency posture. Okay, so they always do this. If they don't like the outcome, they just say it goes too fast. As it turns out, the court's decision was an even bigger mistake than I realized. Wow. She's blogging again. The court's reasoning in California was also possibly wrong, and it evidently resolved more than a jurisdictional dispute. And this shows what's happening. And for a cautionary tale, let's look at the docket. And now the court is lobbing a grenade into this. And here she is, rant about the NIH. They're amazing. Historically, they get a bunch of grants. They got a bunch of grants. Trump canceled them. And now, oh no, HIV transmission, Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease, everyone's going to die. So they sued. And let's see how long her dissent is. It's long. All right, so it's a blog from Ketanji. It just keeps going. All right, so you get the point of it. She's going to be very upset about it. She finishes out this 36-pager, and she says, now Trump is terminating these things at scale, and what the court is doing today is not legal or practical. And so unfortunately, she says, this newest entry in the court's quest is not the last word. For the sake of the public, one can only hope that the grant recipients get their money. Yeah, we know. They just want their friends to all have endless funding on behalf of the American taxpayer. Well, not how it's going to work anymore, okay? They can go get their DEI funding somewhere else and pay for their research or whatever it is they're doing with their little playwrights and whatever they're doing. So, my friends, good sort of victory from the Supreme Court. Big chunk of money is being canceled. The rest of it is probably going to cancel. Like, I'm sure that guidance will ultimately be found to be valid, but we're just not there yet. And so we'll keep our eye on it. 5-4 decision. Interesting perspective from Roberts joining with the libs. Why did he not think that it was a CEFC situation? He didn't give us many details, but big decision from SCOTUS. So we'll keep our eye on all the Supreme Court activity, my friends. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, well, what a beautiful day and an amazing stream it has been today, my friends. Thanks for joining us. If you're just getting here, we were keeping an eye on the Trump presidential announcement from this morning, and he did come out and announce that we've got the World Cup coming to the United States. Yeah, look at that nice little, whoa, Trump's excited about it. So are the soccer players. We then talked about Bolton and his raid. We saw Kash Patel said no one is above the law. We saw in the cables that all the CNNs and the rest of them were flipped out about this. How dare them say this phrase? Which is a weird thing because they said it to us like regurgitating broken records for 4 years. But the raid occurred. We saw outside the residence of John Bolton as the FBI was walking in there with these boxes. And the boxes look like they're empty because they're going to fill them up with maybe classified materials. We heard a couple of clips from Bolton himself, who was screaming about classified documents when he was not on the receiving end of them. And Trump commented on him as well. Byron Donalds and Kash Patel saying they're going after these criminals. All good news. Then we talked about this newly unclassified and de-redacted release, which was about James Comey and this operation called Tropic Vortex, which is one of these kind of fake, almost masturbatory FBI investigations into themselves, where they just kind of enjoy the process of investigation. It's like, well, we don't really care where this goes. We just kind of enjoy it. We just like, investigating ourselves. Well, you're doing it a lot. It's not really producing anything good for anyone. So why are you doing it still? So they did Tropic Vortex, and turns out inside we have a clear chain of Comey directing Rybicki, directing Baker to leak classified materials. And Durham knew it and covered the whole thing up because he's pathetic. We talked about that. Then we hit the Supreme Court latest National Institutes of Health, a 5-4 decision, which is ultimately a step in the right direction for President Trump, but not a total and complete victory, but not yet. We'll see if we come back on that later down the line. But now, my friends, it's a beautiful Friday. I hope your week has just been outstanding. Thank you for being here and being a part of our channel and all the things that we're doing here. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking the video. And thank you for sending in these amazing donos and super chats and supporting our work here. We're grateful for you. Let's see what you have to say about all of this. We got some great comments. Hey, Jaquan, 88 in the house. I think I remember that name from that one video, Jaquan. Yeah, and wasn't he also saying like Aaron? Aaron, are you here? Yeah. So Jaquan in the house. 9 months. Here's to the next 9 months, baby. We got a new baby in the house. Thank you, Jaquan, for being here. Smokin', what's up, Smokin'? 12 months as a membo. Great to have you here, Smokin'. Happy anniversary to us. 1 year. Is that Jesus teaching the Pythagorean theorem? Says A. Thank you, Smokin', for that. Thanks for being here one full year. Tim Jake, what's up, Tim Jake? Hey, a member of my team briefed Bolton. So Tim Jake is our secret agent man here. Says, my team briefed Bolton when he was NSA. He clearly turned out, when told anything that didn't match his biases, tuned out, but perked up any time Iran was mentioned. You're like, actually, hey, John, yeah, no, we got a lot of peace. No, they're not killing each other over there. John's like, oh, gosh, they're not killing each other. All right, anyways, but Iran might need to be bombed. What? Perfect. When? Cool, let me call my mom. All right, right, it's kind of a thing. Tim Jake, thank you for that. Tim Jake, thanks for being our resident secret agent man here, too. TRE Tiger, what's up? Got gifted one new membo in the house. Merc Mercy, why? Gifted a membo, courtesy of Tree Tiger. Thank you, Tree Tiger, for doing that. Hey, I'm a Quee. Last word fur, 7209. Says, hey, loving your coverage on everything. Thank you. Thank you, Ima. We appreciate Ima Queen being here. Thank you for your coverage on everything. Thank you, Ima Queen, who's a member. We appreciate you. 200 Watt Studio, what's up? Would love to go surfing with Tulsi. Surfing, huh? Is that what the kids are calling it these days? 200 Watt Studio? Yeah. Diane K. Lacey was proud that Tim Burchett was my representative until I saw pictures he posted on X of him celebrating India's Independence Day. I had a great time at India Fest 2025 today. He needs to read the room. Oh, it's Burchett. What do I say? Burchett? Burchett? All right. Well, I don't know. No promises on correcting that because I kind of like Tim Burchett, but we'll have to see. Thank you, Diane, for the correction. Now, that's interesting. And yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I don't know that, I think you can celebrate other countries' cultures. I guess the question is like, are you doing it at the expense of American culture? Which I think some people do. I don't think Tim Burchett would do that, but interesting comment. Thank you, Diane K. Lacey, for that. Tim Burchett in the house. Leonards, what's up? Trump has tremendous energy for 79. We know the media is corrupt because it never mentions how hard Trump works. He absolutely does. The stamina on the dude is crazy. I don't know how he honestly does it. I don't think many people do, but there's some sort of fuel there that is really difficult to quantify. Diane K. Lacey says, should have said it's about the Indian H-1B fraud scam. Okay, there you go. So that's kind of a separate thing. So it's like, was he there celebrating Indian independence? Okay, like from the British or, and then like a big partition over there is a tough time over there. But that's interesting. So it's like the Indian Independence Day and we love India so much and their independence that we want to flood our country with more H-1Bs. That we're not down for, right? So like that. Thank you for the clarity on that, Diane K. Lacey. I think that gives us some more context for it. Yeah, like if Tim, he wants, like his constituents, like celebrating India's independence. Hey, what's going on, guys? Hey, celebrate. Hey, we love independence. We love freedom. We love liberty kind of a thing. But if he's like, and since you're free, you can come to America now and we'll grant you H-1Bs. Not a fan of that, but we'd have to see what, his formal policy is on it. Thank you, Diane. Good to see you, Leonards. Guillotine Builder, what's going on? Hey, please do a deep dive on the jurisprudence of statutes of limits as they relate to discovery of acts, since they keep citing statute of limitations as the bar to justice. So it's a great request, Guillotine Builder. And maybe if there's an opportunity to, insert that into something, like that will come up probably. Like if somebody's charged, I'm sure they'll file a motion to dismiss. It's expired and they can't sue. So it's going to be fact specific. It's going to be related to what case we're talking about. So the general response to this question is you just call it an overt act in furtherance of a conspiracy. You charge them with a conspiracy. The same pattern for this is what they did with Diddy. His old assault case of the woman in the hotel room, it's too old. Can't charge him with that. Felony expired, misdemeanor expired, it's too old. That's okay. They just call it an overt act and then introduce it as evidence against him in a conspiracy case. So same thing with Brennan. Okay. I know a lot of people said Brennan, his testimony to Durham, I think is 5 years old. So he's done. There are exceptions to the rule for statute of limitations on federal crimes. But I think the broader general answer, because you have to look at the specific person, what were the acts that they did? How can you go back to their, specific case? But the general answer is if you just hit them with a conspiracy, then you just pick the most recent overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. They're a part of the conspiracy. And so you just bring in everything back from the historical record into the case. They did it with Diddy. So I think that would be the answer there. DC Metro, what's up, DC Metro? Hey, you're amazing at breaking down these legal documents and translating them into plain language. Great job, man. DC Metro, thank you for saying that. Happy Friday to you, my friend. And the DC Metro looks like it's getting cleaned up over there, man. So you're probably feeling good too. Probably feeling nice and fresh, like you just got a fresh shave and shower. Nice. DC Metro, thanks for the nice dono, my friend. And thanks for joining us on the early show today. Jump Iva, what's up, Jumpy Eva? Says, love the show. Watching you nearly every day. Keeping it down in AZ. What's up, Jump Iva? Good to see you in the house. Thanks for watching over here in AZ. Right next door to us, man. I wonder where you're at. And we appreciate you being here. Thanks for watching. Yeah, here you go. T Testes, Fred Pedamonte says, Cliff Clinton was fined $8,000. The DNC was fined $150,000. Sorry, the DNC was fined $105,000. And hi, Nancy from T Test States in the house. Good to see you from Fred and that rascally pup Johnny in the house. So yeah, I mean, it was very low. Like it was, I don't remember what the total dollar amounts were, but they were very low. And Trump got prosecuted. They tried to imprison him for that because they're maniacs. So we got those. Hey, we got some donos over on the locals as well. Here's a good one from Bucky's is Rome. Says the fact that Bolton lives next to Timu Conway with nips and he comes out to stick up for you, says everything wrong with DC. Okay, so this was George Conway this morning outside of Bolton's house. Look at that fella. Does he have a breast? Is that a breast? It kind of looks like the bottom of a breast to me, which is not good. We don't want anybody to be, we want you to be healthy. He needs to stop eating all the seed oils and really stop becoming a liberal. I think becoming a liberal is kind of like the dark side. Like, how it perverted the face of the emperor. It's kind of like that. Bucky's is Rome. Here's Tish in the back of the car. Help! I'm an AG! I'm an AG! Don't arrest me! This is the policy. Hilarious. Thank you, Bucky's is Rome. Tish is in big Tishy trouble. Hey, here's another one from Tish. Pay us what you owe us. Is that a WNBA comment? Did you see some dude got charged with that for throwing a cylindrical object onto the stage, onto the floor? I think it hit like a 12-year-old girl or something. It's not good. Assault with a deadly object, not good. Bucky's is Rome. What's going on? Yeah, this is a good one. Here's the old Cracker Barrel logo. Kind of resembles Sydney Sweeney. Here's the new Cracker Barrel logo. Kind of resembles the mentally deficient actress who doesn't actually have any official mental deficiencies from Snow White. Yep, good one. Bucky's is Rome says here, when you drive from Texas to California and Bucky's reminds you there's still time to turn around and grab the rest and grab at 900, turn around and grab a brisket sandwich. It's just flip around, just flip around. 979 miles. It'll be worth it. Trust us. Hey, Bucky's is Rome says, but Washington, Sir Washington, a district court judge in England said we can't do this. So we have to stop or we're going to devastate the monarchy. Kind of garbage. Good to see you, Bucky's is Rome. We got some good memes today from Bucky's. Shared this one from Bucky's is Rome. Yeah, may they all rest in peace. The Redskins, the Land O'Lakes lady, Aunt Jemima, we miss you. I think, is this Ben from the Rice? Is this the Rice guy? Did they throw the Rice guy off the package because they hate black people so much? And Aunt Jemima? And the Native American Indian, they threw her off too? And the Red Sox? Oh my gosh, just terrible. Bucky's is Rome. Cracker Barrel is gone, man. I'll be outside. Good luck. It's gone. They got it. Get back inside. I'll be outside. Good luck to you. It's true. Here's one from Bucky's is Rome. Here, humans, 1 minute of a plank exercise. You're basically on the verge of death. Here's a dash on to dog. All life. How do you say them? Dashund? Dog, all life. They're wiener dogs. That's what everybody calls them, wieners. So they do it all day. Man, how do they have such strong abs, those dogs? Crazy. And the giraffes too, like their necks. Like they're like doing like this thing. How do they do that? It's crazy times. Bucky's is Rome. What's going on, Bucky's? This is a comment from Eustace Mullen. Says, the Federal Reserve System is not federal. It has no reserves, and it's not a system at all. It's rather a criminal syndicate. Yeah, and they control a lot in our country, which is sick. Here's another one from Cracker Barrel. New Cracker Barrel CEO comes in, executes old Cracker Barrel, and says, where did all of our customers and shareholders go? I personally, I think that things like this are planned destructions, right? They're attempts, like literal liberal attacks to go take out conservative entities through private equity. And it's all part of just an intentional dismantling. I think it's part of like kind of like a humiliation ritual, and it's private equity. And this is like an excuse for them to wrap things up and to dwindle things down. Just, you're like, I know what we can do. How do we wreck Cracker Barrel? Oh, just hire some liberal woke CEO to come wreck it. Like, perfect. Even if you're not woke, you just, oh, perfect. Yeah. All we care about, like, they're not political people. All they care about is just, siphoning off the assets and selling the real estate. So they bring somebody in to just wreck it, and they, clean up in the aftermath. They just bring her in. She's like, yeah, diversity. Terrible. What's up, Bucky's is Rome? Me after eating an entire bag of Walmart's radioactive shrimp. You never know what might happen. You might turn into like shrimp Spider-Man or something. Bucky's is Rome. John Bolton urges the FBI to probe Tulsi Gabbard and Matt Gaetz, calling them a serious threat. Yeah, they're a serious threat to John Bolton. Bucky says, where the Cowboy fans at? Congratulations. The Dallas Cowboys are relieved to be no longer the gayest team in the league. I can't even believe that they're doing whatever that is. It's just wild times to me. I don't watch the NFL anyways because I think that they hate us, honestly. I think they probably hate you too if you're watching it. But then they put that stuff in your face, and then they they lecture you about how racist you are, and then they put stupid little slogans in their end zones, and they make all the players wear stupid symbols and things. So, and then they bring out like, they make it the gayest possible you could possibly make it. It's like, I can't believe anybody watches it, to be honest with you. Bucky's is Rome. Here's breaking. John Blasey Bolton claims Matt Gaetz assaulted her at a party in the 80s. Yeah, Matt Gaetz wrote in her yearbook too. Here, what's up, Cliff Norman? Rob, this is huge. The agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan grants the U.S. a 99-year lease over the Zangezur corridor that will serve as critical trade and energy route to Europe, bypassing Tehran completely, and Russia. Journalist and dissident Banafesh Zan told Fox News the move is a wonderful gain for the U.S. that also delivers a slap in the face to the regime in Tehran. Interesting news there, Cliff. Wonder what that's going to do for Ukraine and for Gaza and all the things. Good update. Hey, Rick D says Jack Posobiec said that, what's up, Jack Posobiec says CIA Director John Ratcliffe gave Kash Patel access to intel that became the basis for the warrant to raid John Bolton's house. That's good. I'm sure he's got a lot more material, and hopefully we get more raids. Thank you, Rick D. Out of an airplane. E. Texley, Rob, it sounds like the criminal division took the lead and kept the leak investigation away from the National Security Division, which is the swamp. Also, a criminal case would have better fit John Durham. Yeah, I understand your point, right? The national security, like it does feel like they tried to send it out. We noticed a lot of that, and I could have commented more on it, but it feels like Washington field office comes in. They're like, oh, we're going to take that over. We're going to take that over. We're going to open up a new investigation and incorporate your investigation into ours. Everybody kind of is, kicking it around. And it feels like, yeah, well, since it's the FBI director, like we can't have the FBI obviously investigate it. Like that's a disaster. So you got to get it out to somebody else. So they just give it to John Durham, who's just a mop-up crew. That's all. It was really disappointing. And we saw that at the very outset when we were reading the Durham report. He starts it off like this bloviating love fest, like how amazing Bill Barr is. Thank you, everybody. They don't harm themselves. They're institutionalists way before they're Americans. Hey, Bucky's is Rome says, Democrats can get elections overturned for fraud, but Republicans get thrown in prison for it. Yeah, Minneapolis Mayor Frey thinks that the race was rigged, citing missing ballots. Omar Fatah's win is now overturned. Yeah, we covered there's like a whole city council of people, like 3 of them, charged with, and we saw the other dude is getting, dropping off the ballots at the drop boxes. Ridiculous. Chat with me. What's up, chat with me? Says, if I were Trump, I'd make a minor announcement, say about soccer, seem like big news on the day of something, maybe like a search of a home office to show how minor and unimportant the person is whose house and office is being searched. That's interesting. So Trump's like, Bolton, what? We're talking about soccer balls today. Like, who? Oh, yeah, that loser. Oh, well, that's interesting. Got rated. Chat with me says, these are the Dem and AOC supporters. We have so many people, we have to eat the dead. We have to eat the babies. That's from somebody who's called B. Gates is a psycho. Yeah. From Chat with me. Man, looks like a good one. From the Democrats and the AOC supporters. Awesome stuff. So, my friends, thank you for being here. Thanks for sending in these donos. We had a couple of other comments. Let me read this one right now. We were going to go to the after party and read this, but this might be useful for everybody. Concerned Citizen from California says, hello, Watcher family. Long time no share. I noticed. We missed you. I missed my own birthday and anniversary, but I have a major story for all the watchers, primarily the Canadian ones. We're now just waiting for our hearing date in a major precedential case in Canada. We, says Concerned Citizen, are exposing the widespread injustice that occurred inside the ESDC in Canada. Pandemic era stuff, 1 million Canadians wrongfully denied, bunch of prepaid payments going on. They can also prove that the government issued secret internal policy memos that changed dates and definitions. They also prove that there were reverse engineerings of decisions using Atrium, a tool that auto-inserted pre-written content into their decisions. So when you would sue to say, my rights are being violated, they would just give you like an auto form. They violated the Supreme Court binding precedent. We need to raise public awareness for this. If we go alone in this case, the judges will completely ignore the evidence. However, together we can send a message. Canadians particularly. Canadians demand answers for this widespread corruption that destroyed thousands of people's lives. If this sounds interesting to you, and if you want to help this cause, spend an afternoon reading through our documentation and evidence. I also have a short 14-part presentation, 10 to 20 minutes each, that walks through the 15 errors listed in our case, showing the evidence on the screen. And so this case has the potential to completely change EL adjudication, ensuring that rampant injustice cannot happen again. And so check this out, my friends. This looks like an awesome project. Justice for EI misconduct, I think, is the location. Is it EI or EL? Justice for EI. Yeah, so EI. It's EI. Justice for EI misconduct. And they'll give you the full breakdown over here and all the nuggets over there. Good to see you, Concerned Citizen. Says, hey, Sadie, saying we'll send the prayers out to you. Yeah, fighting up against corruption and good stuff. Nathan shared this one. Here's John Bolton waking up from a terrifying nightmare of world peace. John. No one's killing each other with my military weapons? No, John. No one's killing each other. And your war stash is not helpful. All right, so chat with me. Let me click that link that you shared over from Psycho. See what we got over here. Yeah, these people are nuts. We need to eat the babies. Oh, gosh. All right, so thank you for that. Here's another one from Stand United. Says, thanks, Snowflake. Cannot share stuff on X. Brat. Are you blaming me for that? Well, I didn't do anything. Did I block you on X for some reason? I had to block somebody the other day. Was it you? Somebody was just talking like all sorts of like really disgusting profanity stuff in our timeline. So you have to get blocked. But that doesn't mean you can't share stuff. But I generally try not to block people, but unless it's like intentionally disruptive, then you got to go. But I don't think I did that to you, Stan United Republic. But if I did, then just don't talk garbage in the timeline and I won't block you. But I don't think it was you. I think it was somebody else. Thanks, Snowflake. Cannot share stuff on X, brat. All right, well, I don't know. Must have done something. I didn't do anything as far as I know. Anyways, thanks for the donut. We appreciate you being here. Hopefully you get your share privileges back soon enough. All right, my friends, we'll leave it there on the day and on the week. Want to thank our amazing mods and meme smiths. We are going over to an after party. We'll debrief a little bit, see what you have to say about it before we call it a day. And so if you're a membo, stick around over on YouTube. You're going to get a new link as soon as I can speak it out of my mouth. And you can come join us and we'll debrief, we'll hang out, we'll see what else is cooking on the day. And then we'll come back on Monday to get into it again. And locals friends, just hang tight. Of course, it will stay right on your same screen. Before we wrap it up, I want to thank our amazing mods and meme smiths who help mod the fort down for us throughout the week. Grateful for all of our friends. K-Bean clipping hard for us this morning. Thank you, K-Bean. Carrie B, John, Donut Mind Me. We got Neuro D, Janek, Dog Digger over on the Rumbles. Jigum, Just Rhonda, and Elliot modding the fort down for us. Keeping things oh so nice and beautiful. Kilmar was released. Wow. Yeah. Kilmar was released. I thought that might be happening today. What a joke. All right. Well, we'll see what happens with that. We'll cover that next week. Or we'll probably talk about that tomorrow on the members only stream. So we'll hit that one tomorrow. My friends, we'll pause here for the evening and we'll get back into it on Monday. We're going over to our after party. We'd love to see you there. But if we don't, I want to wish you the best weekend. I hope that you have some fun this weekend. You get outside, spend some time with family, friends, the people that we love. Do what you need to do to restore that spirit, rejuvenate the soul, rehabilitate that body so that when we come back on Monday, you and we are restored and ready to go because we are going to need to get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful weekend, my friends. Have a tremendous time, and I'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we exposed corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers, we won't be denied. Watching the watchers, eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. So drop a like and don't forget to share. Bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through the scripted ruse. Together we are watching the watchers, shining the light. Watching the watchers, defending what's right. Watching the watchers, stage night.